I had everything. Everything I'd wished for, dreamed of, begged the stars to grant me. And he had nothing.
Hi, and welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
Hi, and welcome to our second episode of A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas.
Woo!
Welcome back. Yes, so we'll deep dive into chapters 7 to the end of 14 today. So yes, we are finally going to get some more Inner Circle. We're finally seeing Azriel and Amryn again. I know someone's excited.
He's not even doing the exciting stuff.
I love how I did that. It wasn't even personal, but I love how I did that just for you. That the first chapter that we're doing is automatically going to be him involved. Didn't even mean to do that on purpose.
Best sister ever.
Yeah, so I totally forgot last episode to give the explicit warning again, so I'm going to be doing that from now on. Just bear with us. Moving and then trying to do our podcast again. It's like we fucking forgot how this goes. So
we basically have.
Yeah, but I'm glad we got to get back into it again. So yes, so we are explicit, we cuss, we talk all about the sexual innuendo or the sex scenes and go into them. So be wary of little listening ears, and if you don't care, oh well. We warned you.
Yeah, we warned you. That's your choice now.
But yeah, are you excited? I feel like everybody underhypes Frost and Starlight, but there's so much setup, and I love that we get to know more about things. Mm-hmm. And I really do like this book. So, I mean, I love all of SJM, but this one really holds a place in my heart.
Yeah.
Because I had this before Silver Flame forever.
Right, because you didn't have Silver Flame. It wasn't out.
So I was overanalyzing the fuck out of this book so hard.
Like, where are we going next?
Right, and so I know this book backwards and forwards. So, okay, so yeah, let's just dive right into it. Okay, so before we deep dive, last time on A Court of Frost and Starlight, well, we got a glimpse into Feyre's psyche over again about her triggering trauma of the after-war effects and PTSD. We got two different perspectives. We got Cassian's perspective and we got Mor's perspective, which was really nice. We got to deep dive into more of Cassian's backstory about his mom, about the blood right. With Mor, we also got to see lovely Kier and Eris once again.
From her point
of view, and we got to actually get a snapshot memory of that day in the woods that she always talks about. So we got to finally get that once and for all.
And what Eris actually said.
And yes, what Eris actually said to her, and our thoughts about him. So
go listen to that if you haven't.
So yeah, so basically, we're getting into this as we get into chapter 7. Like, the stuff from the Court of Nightmares is kind of ringing their heads a lot in this section. So go listen to that if you haven't yet. So right at the start, welcome back to Rhysand's point of view with Azriel finally in his private study in the House of Wind, because that's where him and Az meet up all the time.
Right, because Az still lives at the House of Wind.
Yes, or wherever. I really don't know where he goes.
That's true. It's like, where does he really stay? Maybe he just sleeps in the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, I don't know. So yes, of course, he's bringing bad news to Rhys right before the holiday, because why not?
Good morning.
There's always has to be something in these, even in books like this where it's like really small, there's still content. So it's like, remembering the last episode, Eris is very forewarning about how Tamlin is not protecting his lands, which, to be honest, makes sense.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't have much tech with.
He doesn't have anybody, so who would actually be protecting so his potential threat? And I just love how we're getting into this. You can bring it up more because you highlighted it, but I like how Rhys says that Azriel's shadows are different than his. Like, because you think all shadow power would sort of be kind of the same, but it's not. Azriel's shadows come from a different place.
Yes.
What do you want to say about his shadows?
Oh, well, I like his shadows. But like, genuinely, I do appreciate the way that Rhys does subtly give us hints of like, yeah, these shadows, they came from a prison that was meant to break Azriel. Instead, he had learned how to communicate them. He had learned their language. And also the fact that Rhys is like all-powerful, High Lord, and he's like, I still have no idea how those shadows work.
And he still gets uneasy by Azriel, even in some cases. It's very interesting, because it's like, you think that they're all tight-knit, which they are. There is also a level of secrecy with some of the things that are internal to them.
Right, and things that Azriel still doesn't share. I mean, there's things that Rhys doesn't share about what happened under the mountain.
Which we only know because of Feyre, because
Right.
he's talking to Feyre, but we don't know otherwise. They wouldn't know.
And like, so it's like, there's things that, I mean, but I feel like that's also still a good thing for inner circle anyway. Like, I think it's good to have some secrets, because if you're a completely open book with someone, then you have nothing left for yourself.
Full transparency is not a thing.
It's good to be transparent and honest, but you don't need to be completely serious.
It's illusion. It's an illusion of trust, I think, that people mistake.
That's like, in terms of actual logic and analysis of what I think of his shadows.
I also had a really weird moment of, I never thought about this when reading this book again, now that we're like actually making notes and deep diving. Why is he the only Illyrian that we know of in history that actually has powers outside of? Because like, they never said that Shadow Singers were Illyrians.
That's true.
They never said that. So is he special in that case more than...
Yeah, that does make... Well, it doesn't make sense. But it makes sense in the fact of what you bring up, because in the past it did say that Shadow Singers were already extremely rare. And then combined with the knowledge that they've given us about Illyrians not having powers other than the raw killing power that is with siphons and stuff. But bringing up what you said about Rhys still sometimes getting confused or scared of Az. Like, not scared of Az himself, but like just scared of how Az gets sometimes. You know, with the, I mean, as it says later in this, of just like, you know, Rhys gets tense whenever Az has like that cold expression on his face that even he can't read. I mean, no one can really read Az anyway. But I can totally imagine that.
I just think it's so weird that he's the only Illyrian that we know of besides Rhys, and even Rhys isn't a full Illyrian that has powers that are beside the killing. So he's already like a beast in that way.
I mean, as far as we know, Az is full Illyrian.
Yeah, so maybe
like he's a bastard.
Maybe he is half Illyrian and we don't know it. Like I don't know like his parentage. So, but he seems full Illyrian because he has the same eye color, he has the same hair color.
I mean, he did have two half brothers.
Yeah, so I don't know. But that seemed weird when I was rereading it again. I was like, he is. So basically, going off of that, Azriel is giving Rhys information that he was talking about with Cassian in our last chapters about where he's like showing him a map of all the camps where there's like rhetoric going on that Cassian, Azriel, and Rhys hate them and that they were trying to like sabotage them during the war and whatever. And it's basically all of them.
Yeah.
Or at least there's like a bunch of red dots all over the Illyrian steppes, and it's like
it basically is one big dot. It seems like, if like I can picture looking at that map, or like the maps in the movies that have flags all close together that it looked like a pincushion. Like that's totally something I see. And I do appreciate though that regardless of Az kind of being no nonsense in most of the time, he still has emotions, of course, which we know. But you know, he's trying to soften the blow of like, well, it's not all of them. Like logistically, this one camp, it's only 2 females.
So it's like, yeah, but then also even those are powerful voices. I know what he's trying to say, but also like women, widows, or that are distraught are going to be pretty powerful.
Right.
So it's like, glad that they know now, but it's like, oh, why'd you have to do this like right before the holiday? Also, apparently Az does not yield.
I know, it's sad, but kind of funny how it's like Rhys and Cass are just constantly, Rhys and Cass when they were younger constantly pummeled him to try and get him to open up. And it's like, that's not how you make introverts open up.
And also, yeah, like he's not going to do it because he's strong as hell.
I mean, legit. I mean, we don't know the exact details of what happened to him in that prison cell, but I would definitely guess he does do torture, so he's probably used to torture on himself.
So he doesn't. So I get, and this whole chapter is like, it's almost like a swap of Cassian and Rhys. Rhys understands Cassian's devotion to the Illyrians, but also is like, he thinks he's a little misguided by it. And he's also on Azriel's side where he's like, yes, his total criticism of the Illyrians makes sense. I think his total criticism here when Az talks about it is sound. He's like, the Illyrians are pieces of shit. They're a warrior race. Why are they bitching about people losing their lives in war when that's what they're trained to do? Like, I could imagine that these are people that, you know, like people that don't, what is it? You know, like, you know, common foot people who have like never...
if it's people who are like just drafted, like merchants who are drafted and sent into war.
I could understand why like they would think that there's this level of discontent towards them, but that's what they're made to do.
They literally spend every waking day training, you know, to, you know, fight and kill and be part of the army.
So like, I totally get him when he says that, but and they are hypocrites, but we get kind of this unspoken spoken dialogue between him and Rhys about how Asriel thinks that they should be disbanded, which bad idea. Total bad idea. I think Az is being a little bit about that, but I could also understand why he is.
Like, if you disband them, Rhys brings up a good point. Where are they going to go? They're probably just going to make their own camps anyway, and now they're just not under the High Lord's control.
So they're going to be in the same place, they're just not going to be under the purview, and then it's just going to cause more mayhem.
Whereas right now, Rhys at least has somewhat of a control over them.
So it's yeah. I also like how they bring up about the human queens, because it's like, I think it's something about Sarah that I really do like, where even in a book like this, where there's not really a lot necessarily going on action-wise, but it's like, let's not forget about the very lingering moments in these books. Like, they are not gone.
Do you remember, sorry, quick digression. Do you remember Improve? How every once in a while Kuzco would pause what was happening and be like, come on screen.
Fourth wall break and monologue.
That's exactly what it feels like Sarah's doing. All right, guys, so just so you remember, the queens
exist, and
Spider-Man does that a lot too. The Spider-Man cartoons.
Oh, that's true. No, so it's like, we get some new information that we didn't know last time about, at least in the last part of the book, is that the human queens haven't left. Apparently they have a joint castle where they were at during the war, and they haven't left it to go back to their territory. So they're like holing up in there for some reason. For one, I think it's because nobody else can get in there. Because remember, in ACOWAR, we found out their place was guarded by a bunch of wards, and Asriel couldn't get through. And they're scared. Right. That's why they're staying there.
And we have no idea actually what happened to them after.
Except for
the one who turned old. But like the other, what is it? Now they're down to 4? Well, yeah. Vasa is not included. The three of them that are like holed up in
I wonder if they're dead. I wonder if they're gone. Because wouldn't they have gotten scared straight by that? About not the war, but about the queen getting turned old? Wouldn't that turn them on from it? Maybe she killed them.
And they wouldn't know that they left. Because the bodies are still there. Or I suppose it is the 4 of them, because even though the queen is now old, she's still alive.
She's immortal now, but she's just old.
Right, so there's the 4 of them, and I mean, yeah, maybe she does have like some control of them, because she's like, oh, I'm immortal now, so now you have to listen to me.
Because when I was reading this the first time, because I had to think about where this story was going, I thought a lot about. So my first thought was that this woman, because especially when Nesta and Elaine got put in the cauldron, it was more pure intention, like in the sense of like they weren't going in for themselves; they were getting forced. Right. While she went in willingly and wanted to get something out of it, so the cauldron did like a fucking Uno reversal on her and then made her evil somehow. Right. Where it was like, or made her so resentful towards it that she's like, "Fuck all magic, fuck all the Fae, and I'm gonna kill everybody."
Yeah.
Like, that totally seems like a villain arc to me.
It does.
So yeah, by the way, Peace is very tenuous.
Very. It's here, but will it last?
Everybody thinking ACOTAR stopped after ACOWAR, and it's like, hell no. There's too much going on. Because also, when Rhys brings up about how Hybern's lingering people aren't happy, I'm like, yeah, nobody is upset that they're the people that lost.
No one's even like considered of like, oh yeah, they just peacefully went back to their island.
No, they didn't.
I doubt that.
So good God. It's funny, but it's also like, ooh.
That's a little tense.
So Rhys said they might need the Illyrians before it's all over, which totally makes sense. And of course, because they're brothers and because it's the holiday season, they don't want to tell Cassian before the solstice.
Gonna be pissed.
But what is he gonna do in 2 days? Like, he's nothing.
Honestly, though, I understand why they're not gonna tell him, because from what I understand of Cassian from getting to know him is if he hears that, he is not gonna stay home for solstice, even if Az and Rhys held him there. Like, he's going back to the camp to start putting things at rest.
And can I just say how funny it is that the first thing Rhys says about like not bringing it up is that, well, because of Nesta. It's like
I think the way that he said it indirectly is funnier, of like he's already gonna have his hands full and his mind occupied.
Sorry, like Cassian has such like a mad boner for her that it's like he's angry at her, but also at the same time turned on.
He definitely wants to fuck.
He doesn't know what to do.
But he doesn't want to scare her away by wanting to fuck her.
That's true.
She already doesn't pay attention to him.
So basically continuing the conversation. God, I feel like their conversations are like ours. It's like a moment, it's like, okay, we were talking about the queens, now we're talking about Cassian and Nesta. Okay, back to the queens. So what are we actually going to do about that? So basically basically, Az is supposed to keep a watchful eye on the queens. And we learn that Jurian, Vasa, and Grayson, what a fucking group of people to be at. So they're at Grayson's estate right now, kind of like holed up in their own lordship of a way.
Because Jurian kind of took over his leadership of the humans.
Or at least that part of it, the southern part.
Which, again, I think it was Sarah trying to remind us of, oh yeah, that lower part of Earthian that belonged to the humans never had a queen.
And doesn't have a ruler. Why don't they just do it, you know? And I love it. It's like Jurian stepping in. This is fucking insane, by the way. So remember Vasa, she is cursed and on temporary leave from her keeper of sorts. Mm-hmm. Even though they don't say his name, that's Kosechi. It has to be. When I even read this the first time, I was like, okay, it's a dark sorcerer of the lake. Who the fuck else would it be? There's only one lake on the continent, so that's the one it has to be.
It's like especially a large lake.
I love how even Feyre and Rhys-Anne haven't picked this up. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Who could be their keeper?
It's like, oh God. So anyway, at least to us, that seems very okay. Mm-hmm. There's no question. But is it crazy that her keeper, Kosechi, whatever, has just seemingly let her stay long? Fuck. For what?
I don't trust it.
What?
I don't trust it.
No, I don't either.
I mean, there's still the question about how Papa Archeron managed to trade or whatever to get Vasa over here. But then it's like, okay, again, we don't know what their deal was, but what allowed Vasa to stay here?
And maybe the deal was dead as soon as Papa Archeron was dead. Because isn't that how deals are made anyway?
I mean, unless it specifically has
even if I die.
or what if the deal was along the line of let me have Vasa for this and then I'll come back and you can take my life.
I wonder how he worded it for it to actually make it so that she could stay long.
Right.
Because it had to have been something that he said. Mm-hmm. Unless it has nothing to do with Archeron and it has everything to do with him just being like, yeah, it's fine that you're there. For what? I don't trust it. I agree with you. I think Kosechi's trying to get information through her eyes or something.
Probably.
Because I didn't see this. But when Rhys is talking about it, Rhys and Helion both looked at Vasa. And apparently the curse is woven in her blood. Mm-hmm. Come on. There has to be some sort of tracking or some sort of where he can see through her or something.
Especially if it is Kosechi. He's a death god.
He has to be watching.
There's nothing. One thing I did have a theory about how Vasa's staying here is that that maybe he did try and approach her again, which is why it specifically says that her keeper extended the amount of time. It suggests that maybe that's more recent kind of thing. Maybe her keeper did approach her and she reminded him of the deal that Papa Archeron made of just hey, by the way, since magic is specific, again, how did Papa Archeron word it? Of no, but actually the deal says that I can stay longer.
Or I wonder what it was that he was resolving. Because it would make sense if Archeron worded it in a way where because remember Feyre in the first book sort of told him indirectly that magic is specific. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like he knew more about Fae culture than he was letting on.
Honestly, yeah.
So maybe he knew about the wording and maybe he was saying he made it open-ended to the point where it's okay, till the conflict in the world is resolved. It's that will never be over.
She's free.
That will never be over. So it's because he thought he was some puny human that didn't really know anything and then made a devil's deal and then maybe it has nothing to do with him and he just wants information.
That would be a good way to put it though, till the conflict with the humans is over. Mm-hmm. And then it's well, technically, if we're considering the other human queens, that doesn't seem like that's over.
Yeah, it's not. So maybe that's what it is.
Or the fact that the wall is down and it could be Fae versus human all over again.
It's just crazy that it seems like she'll have to return, but there's this, even she, it seems has this irks about it. Or this, it seems any day he could just her back and then sorry, that sounded like a whip. I didn't mean it like that. It was more kind of
but that is kind of.
It was more like a leash kind of thing.
Both used in the same sense. But it also, weirdly, it does feel like she's not panicking about it. She's more resigned to her fate.
Yeah.
So she's just well, I gotta do all that I can. But yeah, she doesn't seem to be panicking of, come on, I need you to break my curse immediately or else, or else. It's no, she's just oh, I don't want to go back.
What happened to the please save me, Feyre Archeron?
Right? Where did that go?
It's fine. But apparently Lucian has been very busy going in between the humans and the Night Court, which actually, it does make makes sense. He traveled with her.
Mhm.
So it would make sense that she sort of trusts him to talk to him.
Right.
Because if they travel for so long together, you know, you don't know what happened. Maybe they like started to trust each other. And so it seems like the humans trust Lucian to a certain degree, which makes sense. God. As things, so then it, of course, because Lucian gets brought up, there's a level of, I hate where this tension goes. I hate it. We both hate it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, Lucian should be the human emissary, which is a good idea. I think that give him a job, give him a purpose, give him like something that like, you know, would make sense. And I love how Reese is like, well, Lucian's away. And he's like, well, where is he? And then Reese actually I don't know if Asriel is joking or not. I don't think he is. I think he's serious.
So. Yeah.
He makes a joke that he doesn't know where he is. And he's like, well, his reasoning is, and I quote, I don't make a point of looking after his movements. Why? Not a flicker of emotion. He is Elaine's mate. Hold up. Let me get this straight. Az doesn't track Lucian's movements because he's Elaine's mate, and that would be an invasion of her privacy?
Not Lucia's privacy. But I do agree with how Reese is thinking in here of like, yeah, he didn't want to know if Lucian sought Elaine out.
And that's what it is. That's totally what it is. He doesn't want to know if Lucian is seeking her out or when he does try to seek her out. Why would he not want to seek her out during the holiday? Of course he's gonna come. Oh God, I feel bad for him, but I feel bad, but I'm also like, oh God, he's digging his hole here. Like, so bad.
It's not gonna happen.
I feel so bad. Because when I first read this, I was like, oh, that's cute. And then rereading it over and over again, at some point it just got sad.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, damn. So apparently, to sad point that, Lucian is going to be spending solstice with Tamlin because he kicked him out the last time, like you famously brought up last time about with the black eye.
Brutally kicked him out.
So Reese thinks it's because Tamlin's utterly alone, which makes sense, and Lucian sort of pities him and wants to be with him.
I mean, we all kind of pity him to an extent.
But I understand, and I'm not going to bring this up later, but I understand why Reese holds so much resentment toward Tamlin. Yeah. I get it. But there also is to a point where it's just like, let Lucian off the hook, man. And also, I will say later, maybe even let Tamlin off a little bit. Slightly. Not forever, or not like a lot.
Just until he can figure out how to want to live again.
Until he can figure out how to want to live again? And then you guys can be at each other's throats again.
Because then he'll actually, like, you know, want to pick a fight.
Yeah, so I'll get into that later, but I think, especially letting Lucian off for sure, but also, I get it, but I also, come on. Mm-hmm. Do you think Tamlin's still in love with Farrah?
I think he's in love with the idea.
Good answer. I don't think he actually loves her.
No. I mean, I think he did, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think definitely now, at this point, he's just remembering what he had.
Yeah.
And I think how do I phrase it? At the end of the war, when he saw Farrah crying over Reese's dead body, I think that was when he realized that he couldn't actually have Farrah anymore.
Yeah.
But he misses that he could have that, and he is sad to see that he was not the one that she was crying over.
Which is, to be fair, yeah, like, you can be sad about, like, a lost love.
Yeah.
I think that's valid.
And so now I think that he's just in his phase of complete self-loathing and realizing, or not even realizing, he hasn't realized at this point that there are other things in the world, especially for an immortal. I think he's still stuck in that idea of like, well, she doesn't want me anymore. I see that now. What's the point?
Because also, what if it's a thing where, or because if you think about it, Tamlin gave up before Feyre even showed up. Mm-hmm. But then it's like Feyre pushed she was like a temporary bandage because he already was depressed and like hating himself beforehand. And so then she was his bandage. And then when she isn't there anymore, he doesn't think that he's worthy to live, worthy of anybody else, worthy of love in general.
When Feyre was there, he didn't let himself think of all of the things he fucked up. He didn't let himself think of, I mean, even if it was 500 years ago, he didn't think of Reese's mother and sister. You know, he didn't let himself think of Bargain or the curse with Amarantha until Feyre showed up, and he's like, oh, like someone is paying attention to me and doesn't hate me yet?
Yeah.
Okay, this is good. I can forget about everything else and just focus on this. And I think that's one of the reasons that he clung to Feyre so much, more than just what the love he had. I think it's that he didn't want to let go of the person who that he thought hated him. And so now that she's gone again, like the bandage you said, he has nothing left to distract him from all of his thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So again, we'll go back into him more when it gets to his part of the chapter, but I sidetracked this. But I love how Reese in this conversation thinks he's being a sly motherfucker to Az when like he's like bringing about, you know, oh, do you think Lucian can stomach being around Grayson. And it's like,
he's like, why would I know?
Rhys and Faye were trying to cause like high school drama. Like, why the fuck would Lucian care? Yeah, he treated Elaine like shit and like told her that he didn't want to marry her anymore. It's not like he did anything heinous to her to a level of Tamlin where it's like, you know, oh, he needs to die. It's like, yeah, he fucking was a dick. Like, that's it.
Right. And honestly, probably Lucian doesn't see Grayson as much. It says that Jurian is in Grayson's father's estate, but honestly, probably Lucian legit just goes there for Jurian and Vasa.
I would wonder if even he knows who that is. Like, I mean,
Elaine certainly doesn't tell him about it.
Well, Elaine did say his name is Lucian.
That's true.
In the last, but like, I don't even know if he would have. Right. So it's like, Asriel says, good riddance if, and it's like, oh wow, okay, you're upset. I'm half tempted to give Nesta hunting rights for Solstice. So that gets into, are we getting the girls gifts?
He actually stumbled over his words.
He's
like, are we supposed to get sister gifts?
Which is cute, but I hate that it's Elaine.
He's not even considering a gift for Nesta. He's not even considering that. You know that immediately as his mind went straight to, what the hell do I get Elaine for Solstice?
Dude, not even favor a man. Like, well, I mean, I know that she's talking about Nesta.
And yeah, of course, Az is going to get Feyre a gift because they're part of the inner circle and knew it. But you know, it immediately went straight to, oh, Elaine, what do I get her?
The sisters. Okay, gifts.
Sisters.
We do find out, unfortunately, that Rhys is basically paying for Nesta's drinking problem and her rent, which...
And she doesn't even have the balls to say hi to them or visit them or thank them.
Honestly, the mystery of Nesta until the end of these chapters is fascinating. Because it's like they keep talking about her and then she doesn't really show up until later. And it's so interesting. Like, I hate it, but it's also, oh, when are we going to see her? It causes a sort of tension in the book that I like. Like, when are we going to see her? When are we going to see her in action? So, as they're going into this, it's like, let the sisters exchange presents among themselves. Apparently, because of the conversation at the Hewn City, Rhys is heading to visit Tamlin at the Spring Court. And whoo boy, is that not going to go well. Like the last time he went.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, of course, Asriel asks if, you know, Favor's gonna go. And it's like, it's always, like Liesl always loves to say, it's always Favor's choice to go. But, I mean, she's not going to want to go. Like,
no.
And he's not going to be upset if she doesn't want to go.
Right.
So, because
I do like, he specifically, yeah, I'm not going to try super hard to convince her to go. At least he's being honest.
Right. I do like how, in this book in particular, and I think you'll feel like future books, as in, i.e. Silver Flame, I like to see the relationships between the bad boys individually of, you know, Rhys and Asriel, Rhys and Cassian and Asriel. Like, I love seeing the dynamic between them, honestly, individually. I mean, I love them all three together.
Right.
But, because it seems like Asriel sort of understands Rhys's dark side more than anyone else, which makes sense. I also love how Sarah, like, throws, like, a fucking Bryaxis meme in here of just, like, oh, he's also out, by the way. I haven't heard anything, like, I haven't heard a whisper or a scream.
I love his sense of humor.
You do love Asriel's sense of humor, yeah.
So dry and dark. But
of course that's you. Of course that's your guy type, man. I'm not surprised. It's like, do you want me to hunt it down? It's like, well, it's, you know, Feyre and him are supposed to do that. And also it's like, let him enjoy Solstice.
He did help them in the war, and, you know, he was one of the only monsters to survive.
But how is that? First of all, I have two questions. How is that possible that no one has seen it? Like, seen him? Like,
in the shadows.
I mean, he does, but also, unless, I mean, obviously it doesn't seem like he'd be the type to wreak havoc somewhere random. But where did he go? If he loved the library so much, why is he somewhere else?
That's true.
Like, it doesn't make sense unless he's back in the library and they just don't know it.
I mean, I think I can say this theory here. I've shared it in a mini episode before. But I think that, well, maybe I don't like think it directly, but it's a theory that I've had, funny one, is that Bryaxis is still fulfilling his bargain to Feyre of he's still hunting down Hybern people.
Oh, yeah, you did think that because she never said to stop.
No, she never told. She told him to hunt down Hybern people and only Hybern soldiers. So the theory was that Bryaxis is still hunting down Hybern people that are in Prythian, hiding out in Prythian, which is why he hasn't been spotted, because those Hybern soldiers soldiers are probably hiding somewhere dark.
That makes... I remember you saying that.
Probably in the middle somewhere.
It's just interesting that, like, he disappears and then he's never seen from again, at least that we know of. And then it's like, he loved the library so much, why wouldn't he want to go back? So
maybe he's going book shopping.
Or he's just vacationing until he, like, goes back forever or whatever. I don't know. If he seems to be not hurting anybody, then he doesn't really need to go back, does he?
It is kind of funny, though, that we've personified him. Like, we've created... Well, Sarah created him into a person, personable. But it's like, we've definitely taken him as, like, the sweet gentleman type of monster.
He is. And he
really is.
He's the only monster we have left, damn it. And he needs to be protected.
He's very polite and sweet and rips your enemies to shreds, and he's perfect.
We need to protect him. We need to protect him.
Unless you're Cassian, in which case, fucking kill him.
So it's not dying. Now, this is so for the last part of chapter 7, because there was a lot of information here. I do want to dive into this for just a sec, because I mistook this when I read it for the first time and many other times, and it was only this time that I was starting to question this. Let me read verbatim what it says. I inclined my head dramatically, regal the portrait, before propping my feet on the desk. When do you head out for Rose Hall? This is Rhys saying this to Azrael. The morning after solstice, turning toward the glittering sprawl of Alaris, he winced slightly. I still need to do some shopping before I go. I offered my brother a crooked smile. Buy her something for me, will you? And put it on my account's time. Let me tell you what, for the longest time, I don't know why I was thinking that this was Azrael talking to Rhys or how I got this fucked up. I was thinking Rose Hall was the spring court because I was like, oh, Roses, it has to be like Rose Hall. Like, he's telling that to, and then him, sorry, playing the pronoun game. I thought Azrael was saying that to Rhys about Rose Hall. Oh, when you're going. And then the comment towards Azrael was about buying her a gift. I don't think it is at all. I think Rose Hall has something to do with his mom. Yeah. Azrael's mom. And about him buying her a gift.
I agree.
And I didn't even think about that. I was like, oh my God. Because we never heard of Rose Hall. It's never brought up again. I've never heard of it. And we never really had, like, the only time we ever heard of another house name was, where does Baron live? It's in the Forest House.
Yeah, the Forest House.
Yeah, like, we never got, like, Tamlin's Manor has always just been the manor. So, what is Rose Hall? I want to know. I want to know what is Rose Hall, because is that an Illyrian camp? Is it, like, Windhaven? It's one of the camps, many camps around there? Or is it an actual hall? Is it actually some place where people live? Because I don't think that Azrael would want his mom to live with Illyrians. Because it has to be somewhere else, right? So, I assumed he was talking about more, but that's so interesting.
I feel like, so at least for me, I think I'd like to credit myself in that I did pick up Rose Hall.
Oh, I didn't.
As not being somewhere we'd heard about before. I think for me, I kind of started, kind of creating the whole narrative in my head of like when Az went back to deal with his half-brothers, that he had then taken his mom away from that like place. Maybe even before he dealt with his half-brothers there or wherever it was. Yeah. Of just like wasn't it said that, when Az was in the cell, he was let out a few times to visit his mother. So he clearly cares for her.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, again, we haven't really heard much about her, but it's like he was let out a few times a day to see his mother, or a few times a week to see his mother, visit her, before he was shoved back into the cell.
This is like a crack theory, but like, what if she's in the Illyrian or like Fae version of a mental institution? Or something where these women are so fucked up that they can't be out in society or something, and like they're just cloistered to this place called or something like that. Like the inversion of a mental institution. Because every time in a fucking one like this, where it's like a mom that's like alive, but you're just going to see her, she's always like you're in prison or some sort of mental institution.
That's true. It's true.
I just wonder where she is. Because she's not with the Illyrians. He would not want her to be with them.
Oh, definitely not.
Never. So she's not in a camp, I'm gonna assume.
I'll admit, I had actually read a fan fiction a while back where it mentioned Rose Hall. And the theory that the writer had come up with was that the mother had Alzheimer's, basically. That she had memory trouble.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at the Alzheimer's. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's like kind of, that's what your mental institute made me think of. And it was the fan fiction basically said that he went to visit his mother in Rose Hall and she hardly recognized him. Which was why it was always so hard for him to go visit her.
That'd be so bad. God, the Fae version of Alzheimer's. Oh my God.
That must be hard.
So that is a mystery. I would like to hear what everybody thinks about it, like, because I didn't pick pick up Rose Hall.
Yeah.
And I read it and I was like, what the fuck is this? Wait.
Yeah. I definitely did not have any idea of where Rose Hall could. Yeah, so I was similar in that sense of like I mixed up who was saying what to do. Because it was like Sarah was playing the pronoun game with us.
I assumed Rose. I was assuming Tamlin. That's all.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting about the getting a gift thing, because I definitely thought it was more.
It's like, it has to be her.
Yeah, but why would he cringe so much at the idea of getting more a gift? So
yeah, maybe it's because his mom doesn't know who he is, and so it's like, I don't know what to give her.
I'm just like, do I get her something that I've gotten her before? Or
oh my god, so bad. So yes, moving on, but yes, chapter 8 then is Cassian's POV, and I fucking love this chapter. I also love Cassian, but you know, I love this chapter. So kind of in part of how our title is, a storm is coming. Not only just of this tenuous piece that they have, but also this level of, there's an actual storm hitting the Illyrians.
Yeah, you know, because they're still in winter, and they're still up in the mountains.
Right. So it wouldn't hit for a day or two, but like Cassian has postponed the warriors training, even the girls, but you know, enemies could strike at any time, which is true.
If you're trying to attack in a giant snowstorm, something's wrong with you.
Did no one learn from the Mongols in Russia?
Apparently not.
Everybody in world history class, for sure. So the camp's going to be like covered in a few days, and so Cass heads up to this local clothier in town. So it's like, there's like a few shops. He said there's like 2 blacksmiths, there's like 1 clothier, like one general store.
Imagine an Illyrian mall.
That reminds me of your small town so much. Like, it's hilarious.
That gets covered in snow in the winter, yeah.
And just kind of few stores down like a 1 strip.
Yeah.
And, like, in your town had more than that.
And it's been growing, but if you see pictures of it back when it was a mining town, 100%.
Yeah, it looks like dead.
Yeah.
So basically, all the shops basically have out of stock signs. But then this one shop has everything in stock. And then we figure out why. Because as soon as he walks in, there's a young Illyrian female working the counter.
Yeah.
And obviously, the first thing Cassian sees, she's been clipped.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be illegal. But also, we don't know how old this girl is.
Right. She could have been clipped long before this became illegal.
Even then, I think, yeah, that's true. So we don't know when she was clipped. But there's a level of, so that means there's a level of, in Cassian's mind, this person's family has traditional, he calls it traditional roots. And it's like, it's interesting that we're finally meeting one of these Illyrian females that like we've always talked about. Because we've talked about their rights, we've talked about them, but we haven't actually ever met one that has been clipped. So it's interesting to actually get to meet.
Or just in general, we haven't ever
met an Illyrian female. No. Yeah. I'm so excited to meet one. Like, and meet one we do.
I mean, because, we've heard of Reese's mom, who luckily was not clipped.
Yeah, but we
saved from being
never met her, unfortunately.
Yeah, so this is the first female we've actually met.
Right. And so, yeah, so basically she's described as braided hair, dark hair, basically how all the Illyrians look. But tan, brown eyes. He said not a beauty. What a thing insult.
Well, honestly, he has a type.
He does. But she looks so much like Nesta, like he says, like how would she, more so in the way she reacts, but not how she, because he only has eyes for one girl, one woman.
Yep.
And so anyway, Cassian is looking for Proteus. That's his name. What a pretentious name, by the way. And apparently that was her father, who owned the shop, who died in the war. So it's interesting that she's immediately, Cassian sees this woman, and she is not like normal Illyrian women that he has met. She doesn't look down. She looks at him straight in the eyes and talks to him.
She's not cowering, even knowing who he is.
Knowing who he is, because he never says his name, and then at the end, she says his name.
He's like...
It reminded him of Nesta, that stare, frank and unsettling. So Proteus was her father. He died in the war, which at first he thinks, oh fuck, because she's gonna be mad at me. That's not at all what's happening here.
It's like, I'm even sorrier than it. She's like, why should you be?
Yeah, it's like, It's interesting with these laws with Illyrians as well, because Proteus only had a daughter, and he doesn't have any close male relatives. So they're in a very precarious situation where they do not want to give this girl, which we find out her name is Emery, they do not want to give her this shop, or the fact that she even has this shop is very kind of a no-no.
Scandalous.
But there's no...
Controversial.
If anything, she's going by the laws, though.
That's true.
Because if there was a close relative, it would would go to him. But there is none, so it, by right, and by Illyrian law, does go to her. But of course, she's going to be outcasted, and that's why nobody's buying anything from her.
Right.
Which is stupid. Clothes is clothes. It makes me think about the whole thing with Devlin in the last book about when he said, "Don't let that one touch.
Don't let him touch anything.
Don't let him near the women." It's like, what?
If that one touches any of the weapons, burn them.
It's like, ugh, what a waste.
Right.
But anyway, she seems like a very strong woman considering what, especially being clipped, but also just this camp anyway.
Despite her being clipped, she still has this confidence.
Which is good. And so he'd seen Nesta in this particular pose. He called her I will slay my enemies pose, end quote. I love how he says that he named like 24 poses for Nesta, suppressing his smile. Even when he doesn't want to think about her, he's thinking about her. Yeah.
Also, it is such a mood though to name someone's poses, especially if you really like them.
Oh yeah, true.
I'm just like, ooh, he's doing that thing again.
He's doing the "we will fuck tonight" pose.
Or he's got those bedroom eyes. That's a very simple way to put it.
True.
He's got the bedroom eyes versus he's gonna start begging for something soon.
Or the "let's go to sleep."
Let's go to sleep. Winky, winky.
It's ironic that Nesta sees so much of, it's ironic that Cassian sees so much of Nesta and Emery because he brings up about like, ooh, I wonder if they meet. I'm like, okay, come on, that's foreshadowing.
It's also very similar to like when Feyre met Amryn. I wonder how they would be together. That'd be a force of nature.
I think they're gonna be a powerhouse, bro. Like, especially when I read this the first time. Hell yeah.
Why else would they bring Emery up?
Why else are we getting
a good way to introduce her?
A random character with a random name, very strong woman who's very much like Nesta. They're gonna meet. So Cassian literally buys all of her clothes she has because no one's come to buy anything. And I like how she doesn't take all the money he offers. Like, he kind of throws the money on the table and she's like, I don't need charity. Like, so she takes the money that is actually owed and then gives him back the other money. That's something I feel like I would do. And then, not because I'm trying to be stubborn, but more like out of the principle of it. I don't want to be given just this rand. Like, I don't want to have this guy come in throwing money at me.
But props to him for being like, for understanding it, of understanding, okay, you don't want this to be charity, then legit take the money that's required to pay for these things and give me back the rest.
And I appreciate, because apparently he says that the Illyrians don't normally take his money. I'm like, first of all, any businessman, money is money. Why the fuck would they not give, even if you don't like him?
Also, on top of that, he has a lot of it. He is part of the inner circle, which we already know from Feyre that Rhys pays all of them a hefty salary. So Cass is actually extremely rich.
It's like, actually, if you hate him, take more of his money.
Exactly.
Like, why are you like, no?
Charge him more.
I don't take money from it. It's like, that's a stupid, for a warrior race that's supposed to be smart, that's dumb as shit.
Like you said, if you hate him, charge him double.
Charge him more.
Charge him double, triple, what everyone else pays.
God. But he gives her extra money and she's like, and then she's about to be like, it's for the delivery costs. I want you to give these. And she's like, why? Cassian wants Emery to distribute the clothes in plate. He wants her to say, I get what he's doing. I get an Illyrian that's not him, even if she's a woman, spreading around the stuff to the people who need it actually feels better. And then he wants her to tell them that it was from the High Lord.
Because they don't respect Cass.
They don't respect him, but I also see why he's doing it, because there's a level of, he is the court. They are the court together. So it's like, if he indirectly shows that Rhysand's doing it, then they will respect court more.
Right. They'll even if they don't like Rhys, they at least follow his orders. And also, I feel like in a way, it's going to be like, oh, I really don't like this, but they're going to say that while bundling up in the jacket kind of thing of like, okay, we don't like the High Lord, but he did give us jackets for the storm that's coming.
They care. They can't say that they can't care when they did that.
Yeah.
Especially the people that needed it. And she's like, well, they don't really like me. And Cassian's like, well, they don't like me either. So one of us has got to do it.
Right.
It's like, I get the strategy. And this is why I stand Cassian as a character so much. I love how, even though Proteus, her father, was a successful businessman, was a good warrior, gave up his life for the cause, he still hates his ass because he clipped his daughter for stupid reasons, because now her daughter will never know what it's like to fly.
Right. And which is such a valued thing to him and Rhys.
And to all the Illyrians, even probably the women. I could imagine being so fucking trapped. I mean, that's what they want them to feel. That's like the power that they're holding.
Right.
That's why they do it in the first place. They don't want the women to fly off and think for themselves.
Right.
So there's a level of male arrogance and ignorance and just, oh God. Like, I just love how he has to put that in there. He's like, I'm kind of glad Proteus is dead because I'm not glad. I want to kill him just for that.
Of like the half of him wished that Proteus was still alive, only so he could kill the male himself.
Right. And it's like, oh, we love Cassian. Oh. And of course, she calls him Lord Cassian, which to his credit, he doesn't laugh at her like he did Feyre. Because I feel like that would have been bad.
Yeah. Even if he is thinking to himself of like, oh, I hate that.
I don't know. I mean, I know why he doesn't like it because he doesn't want to be a lord in any sort of way and he doesn't feel like he deserves it. But I wonder why he doesn't correct.
Right.
Because normally he would, but I think he's like letting her off the hook because he likes her. He's, okay. It's because the way she's saying it is not like in disrespect. It's not saying Lord Cassian.
No.
She's saying out of respect.
Yeah. It definitely is a level of respect where she's like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're going to try and play the silent hero type, but really you care about us.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
So he doesn't correct her because he knows that she's not saying it in like a backstabbing way. So I appreciate it. And I really love how he says the force of nature that she seems to be, because like, especially when he says he sees fire and steel in her eyes, it's like, okay, when are they gonna meet and how are they gonna meet? And so it's like everybody in their mother before Silver Flame was just like, okay, how's that gonna happen?
It's going to happen.
Yeah. So
he brought it up multiple times in his head.
So it's like, I liked meeting a new character. We haven't met really seemingly one that's going to actually be, not that I don't mind Rosina, but one that will actually seem like she will be in Sears more. Like, kind of like Briar was.
Right. Anyway.
But yes, then going into chapter 9, we go back to Feyre's perspective, and she's heading to Rosina's studio to go to that painting session that she got invited to. So it's 3 days until solstice, and as she's going there, she's a little bit nervous because, first of all, she's never painted in front of anyone.
Right.
A group, no less.
I mean, even when she was painting, like, around Tamlin and Lucian and stuff, like, she was never, like, actively painting.
Yeah, and she was really by herself a lot of the time. So I also love how when I like Christmas time. I don't necessarily like the hustle and bustle, especially when you're going to a lot of big stores when you're in a big city, but I do appreciate the essence of like everybody going around trying to get gifts for people. I think that that's really pretty, especially when you're in a city like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably is very hustly bustly. I also love how Feyre brought her own supplies to the studio.
It's like, you probably didn't need to do that.
Like, I also didn't want to assume that I would be given stuff, because just because I'm the High Lady means I can like bring my own stuff.
Right, but it's also a painting studio. They're gonna have paint and brushes.
Oh, if you're going to a class, then yeah.
Especially that, yeah. Or like an event that's specifically men painting and is organized that way.
I also like the domesticness. That's why I kind of like living in the city, of being able to walk. I really like being able, and so I like the domesticness of that.
So I think that would be nice. Because, in some of the travels I did as a kid when we'd stay in Airbnbs and that were in town, it's like, oh, I can just go out and walk. Versus my place that is like, well, if I'm speeding 15 minutes from town, usually 20 minutes. It's like, I'm not going to try walking that. That'll take all day.
Right. So, I love how when she talks about flying again, because she's like, Rhys and Azriel are helping her fly, but she's like, I don't know how the Illyrians do with being so cold all the time. It's like, because they live up in the mountains. They're just known to terrible conditions.
And also Rhys kind of cheats.
He cheats. Fucking asshole. I can't have one thing. So as Feyre stumbles to go in, Rhys checks in with her like, good mate. And it's
I feel like you could definitely sense her nervousness down the bottom, unintentionally.
A casual, soft question.
Don't spook her.
And so she goes into how Rhys told her where she was going, and that she obviously doesn't want to go see Tam. And she says she doesn't want to see him ever again, which I get. But I also think you're the High Lady of a court that's still in a tenuous world situation. You're probably going to have to
see him again.
Deal with him again. I get what you're saying. Yeah. I get the idea. But I also know that that's not realistic.
You are definitely going to see.
I get her trying to keep the past in the past, though. Like, anything moving forward is not going to have anything to do with it.
Right.
So I agree with that. But Rhys tries to comfort her, of course, always with sex. He's like, I would be a perfect nude model. And I'm like, a whole bitch.
I mean, technically, you did inspire her to paint when you had your nightmare and you were nude.
I do not want you in front of others at my painting group. No
Right.
fucking way.
Not even just that she doesn't want to share the beauty that is Reese.
No.
But also, like, you know, the High Lord has come in to just be your nude model for today's class.
Dude, all those people would be so scared. They'd just be like,
I'm like, I fucking do this.
it's like, wow, it really is that big. Just like so fucking scared.
I see Reese in the pose of just like,
Oh my god, I would be, imagine, that'd be like you're going into a painting class or something and then a celebrity walks in and just strips nude and you're like, I don't know if I can like actually do what I was supposed to do now. Like,
the teacher just goes on talking of just like, yeah, so you'll sketch him this way and do that. And it's like,
Christina would try so hard. She'd just be like, okay, so class dismissed.
honestly, that would be dismissed though, because Reese would just keep looking at Feyre.
And then they would fucking her gallery or something, and I'd feel so bad. But anyway.
Well, and Rosina lives above her studio.
So bad for these two. It's like, perhaps I'll model for you later. It's been a while since we've been involved with paint. Stop talking about the cabin. God damn it.
Just specifically, she's just, oh yeah, the kitchen table.
It's like, then she brings up the kitchen table like he did the last episode. And it's like, you guys are the same fucking person.
They do like the kitchen table.
I mean, yeah, I do too, but like, honestly, I wouldn't know.
You know, the table where they accepted their mating bond and then accepted their mating bond.
Over again. Jesus. They made all those Illyrians fly off. God, they don't care. But, you know, besides all that,
Yes.
he's like, if you don't want to go in, you don't have to go in. Like, you can...
I think I like the way how he just bluntly said, if you want to go in, go in. If you don't, don't.
It's a good, I mean, that's basically what it is. And so then she's, I want to paint, but I don't want to do it in front of people. So she winnows into that empty studio where Paulina, the lady that we talked about last time, was, where she died, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts to paint there. She didn't want to do the first painting in front of others, so she just lights the flames in the fire and starts, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've actually had like a Feyre paintings.
Right.
And I think as artists ourselves, there's a way of, we love Feyre's perspective, at least I do. I love Feyre's perspective when she starts to paint, because it's like, she just painted and painted and painted until, like, you know, she actually felt her or heard her stomach rumble.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but when I am doing art or when I'm singing or when I'm doing music or notes or something like that, there's a level of like, I will forget to eat because I'm so passionate about what I'm doing.
That actually happened to me the other day. I finally got back into my transcribing and writing sheet music, and I hadn't even realized that a couple hours had passed.
Yeah, so it's, we can really understand.
Yeah.
So so we're on to chapter 10 and it's pretty short. So she just is painting, and I love how she talks about like the unleashing of her feelings when she's painting. As somebody who sings, there are some times where I just have to bust into singing, and not to like impress anybody, but mostly just to like get it out.
Mm-hmm.
I need the outlet of some sort.
Yeah.
And so I can totally understand when she talks about that.
Definitely.
And so like she just legit paints until midnight, and then of course what she paints? She paints the creature in the Ouroboros mirror.
Which I need to see this like so bad. Like official fan art that Sarah has approved as what it is. Cause I have of course many images in my mind of what it is.
There's interpretations, but
right.
not one that's like,
but they're all different. But it's just like, I want Sarah to pick one of like, yes, this is the closest to it. Or the teeth from this one and the tail from that one. That kind of thing.
Okay, weird as fuck. Remember the second Percy Jackson movie?
Mm-hmm.
The Sea of Monsters? That fucking scorpion thing at the end. That beast scorpion thing. I don't know why, when you were talking about it just now, that's the first thing that I don't know why, because it looked so beast-like, but it also had like a scorpion tail, and it seemed like such a hodgepodge of a creature. That's what immediately came into mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that's not accurate, but like that much of a hodgepodge of a character, of a beast, is what I thought. Yeah. So yeah, she hears the bells of Valaris saying at 12, and you know, it's like, oh shit. So she leaves the gallery and she leaves the painting in there because she's like, who's gonna come in?
It's literally boarded up. She only got in there because she winnowed.
And she's like, tomorrow, I love how this is such a you logic. She's like, well, nobody would know I painted it because I didn't put my name at the bottom.
Yeah, that is kind of my logic. I've used that in my art class that I took last semester.
So it's like, well, you know, if I don't paint, then no one will know it's me if they do come. So I'm just gonna leave it.
Yeah, leave it to dry, and if it's still here tomorrow, tomorrow, then we'll deal with it. And then she's like, yeah, I'll come back tomorrow. Which honestly is growth in her in that sense of like, okay, she's getting back at painting.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard the thing, or have you heard the book talk thing of like Feyre's an actual terrible artist?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
The theory that she's actually really bad at it.
I mean, I think that's funny in a meme sort of sense. I don't think it's true because these guys are like what 540 years old. They've seen a bunch of, so there's a level of like, if she's not a natural born artist, there's no way that a character like Cassian wouldn't laugh his ass off if he saw some terrible shit.
Right. No, he definitely, like a good example, Cassian. Even then, I think Reese to an extent, even though Reese would be like, oh yeah, it's cute, or that's sweet.
He would laugh.
Yeah, he would be like, oh, maybe you could try going to some of Rosina's classes.
And Amryn, like, dude.
Oh, she would be completely blunt.
So she had, if we're saying in an actual debunking sense, she has to.
Yeah. I mean, Moore was absolutely surprised by her art in the cab. And then also literally was written that she made stick figures, really bad stick figures of the inner circle.
Yeah, so it's like Feyre just has a natural born gift.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny in a meme sense, but in a reality sense, it's not. Yeah, I don't think that's true.
I think at first I thought that her paintings were more abstract, like thinking back to when she painted the Glen and or the forest or the straw with like her hair, but like not actually them.
Oh, and like the hands.
Yeah, the hands, and the hair and the straw and stuff. So it's like I definitely thought that her artwork was more abstract, maybe. But I think, I mean, it also said that she painted the adder with really scary accuracy,
and she'd never even seen it.
No, she'd only heard its voice.
What if her painting's magical? What if it's like, because we talked about that in like a mini episode, I think in the first season, or it was some other. It was one of our mini episodes, but we were talking about how she was able to see it without ever seeing it because she was glamored at that point. So it's like, what if it is a little magical to a certain degree?
Again, we've talked about it a lot that we think that there's Fae heritage in their bloodline.
Yeah.
But then we've also talked about how we think mating bonds also can apply to humans because that's kind of what we had. But if you think about it, we also talked about how Nesta had her iron will, how that seemed completely, well, because she wasn't able to be glamored.
Completely Fae, yeah.
It's like maybe like she did have some kind of magic in her blood.
Yeah, so if you want to hear more about those, go to our mini episode.
And we don't remember which one, so you'll have to listen to them all.
Yes. Yeah, so going into then chapter 11, so we're back in Reese's POV, and good God, Reese is going, this is the visit with Tamlin in the Springport, and of course, like we all thought, it goes not horribly, like nobody got hurt, but also it doesn't go well.
Right.
I love how this is all described, because as soon as he walks in, or winnows in, outside, it's dead noise. There's nothing, and that's not how we've ever heard the Springport, ever.
It's always been at least like Tweety birds and leaves rustling and stuff. No,
too springy.
Silent.
Nothing but a tangled web of thorns. First of all,
no roses anymore.
No roses. You know what? Reese says that this place looks worse than the day Amarantha took Tamlin and Lucian that day, one day when the manor was destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, it's bad.
Right, because if we remember Feyre's description, it was like the doors were hanging off their hinges, there was glass and blood shattered everywhere. And it's like, okay, now it's intact technically, but it's covered in thorns and looks abandoned.
Is it funny that originally ACOTAR was the Beauty and the Beast story, right? And then it turned into more of a Hades and Persephone once sort of Mist and Fury happened. Tamlin's manor looks more like the Beauty and the Beast movie estate now than it did back in the first book.
Yeah.
Like, it looks more like that now.
It's the reverse.
Have you, okay, again, another theory that somebody, I don't know who started it, but like book talk just in general. Did you hear the theory that, not even theory, but crack thought that Tamlin is really the Beauty and the Beast, like Tamlin is Endgame somehow? And I was like, he's not. What?
I have never heard that.
Yeah, he's like, oh, like Tamlin is the real Beauty and the Beast ending because he's at that point that Beast was in the original movie. And I said,
no, I think he is waiting for his beauty to arrive, but it is not Feyre.
We're getting like the preview to if Beauty and the Beast had a preview. ACOTAR is the preview to Beauty and the Beast, and then this is where he gets...
Prince Adam had a Feyre in his life that completely ruined him and made him sour and bitter. And then Belle came along and fixed everything.
Yeah, so he's waiting for his Briar Rose. I swear to God, it has to be,
right?
It has to be her. But anyway, I heard about that, and I was like...
I've never heard of that. that.
I agree that you're right. He is looking. This is his start to his Beauty and the Beast story.
He just thought it happened earlier.
Yeah, it did. God. So I still love how we're kind of getting it in Reese's perspective of how he puts on his smirk and his swagger and his hand in his pocket. Like now we're getting it from his perspective.
He's like, oh, it was so easy for me to put a smirk on my face. And I'm like, oh, darn it. This is probably like his process every time he did.
Oh, true. And of course, he knocked on the ruined doors and then silence. And then Tamlin answers the door himself.
First of all, not props. At least it was generous of Reese to knock on the door rather than just walking in like he's done.
I think this is the best time he's ever walked in.
Yeah.
He's trying to be civil at first.
Yeah.
And so as soon as he sees Tamlin, he's a haggard male with a dark house behind him, an easy mark. His green eyes were haunted and bleak, not a spark within them.
Because Feyre was his light.
Damn, that's... when you look at someone and it's kind of like, dang.
Like, well, I was gonna come here and tease you. Now...
it kind of seems bad now. It's like...
Now I kind of feel like be slightly guilty if I do that.
Tamlin is somehow living in a big, rich estate, but somehow he looks homeless.
He's the homeless man that snuck into the abandoned estate.
Yeah, he is. It's like, this is not his place anymore. Honestly, I think he needs to leave that. I think he needs to
go find his own cottage.
He needs to get like a smaller place or something. I like how he calls the place a tomb, because Feyre felt like that when she went into her room, her old rooms, when she went there in Akawar at the beginning.
And it does seem like Tamlin's waiting for it to be his tomb.
I know, and especially at the end. Yeah, I'll wait for that. That was a good line. But dang, it's... Of course, Rhys could tear Tamlin to shreds at any point here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been Rhys's whole MO. He could kill anybody, anytime, anybody he didn't like including Devlin, Tamlin, whoever he's pissed at.
And he chooses not to.
But he's like, okay, peace.
I am striving for peace. Self-control.
Damn it.
Peace.
Oh my god.
Tear you to pieces.
I love how Tamlin, when he walks Rhys into the house, like, actually, you're right. I didn't even think about that. This is the one time Rhys has been in this house with actually Tamlin leading him somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in an actual civil way.
Actually inadvertently treating him as a guest.
Mm-hmm. He takes him to the one place in the house with usable furniture. And it's the fucking dining room. The place where all of ACOTAR basically took place. Maybe that's the one place that he can remember Feyre, and that's why he is there, and he's like continuously torturing himself at that moment when Rhys showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like continuously trying to make that moment, and I feel like it's torture. He's torturing himself by being in that room. Because that's where it all went to shit. And so of course they sit down and, Rhys talks to him, and Tamlin says that Lucien is here, and hunting for their dinner because there are no servants to make them anything.
And he doesn't go out hunting himself, apparently.
Because he doesn't want to eat. They're legit utterly alone. It's crazy. Because remember when Feyre at the start of ACOTAR was here, she thought it was just her, Lucien, and Tamlin.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a bunch of people in the background that she didn't see. And now it's legit no one but Tamlin and Lucien at this place.
Mm-hmm. Wait, aren't they?
Oh, he passed the dining room. Okay, well, I just misread that. Well, was the library the place that he put Feyre in?
It was one of the places. He did have that argument in the library, the lunch blow up.
Yeah. I guess it would make sense. Maybe,
human shortcoming, whatever.
Tamlin's a scholar. There's a level of,
wouldn't destroy books.
The books. Yeah.
He's destroyed everything else in his life, but not the books.
No, I guess I was wrong. Like, it wasn't... I just made a funny note about the dining room because it would have been funny if he was torturing himself. But also, I feel like he's torturing himself regardless.
Regardless of where he is.
He's in the library, yeah.
Where he has had that argument with Feyre before.
Yeah. And so, even all the sentries left him.
I mean, no surprise there.
No. The servants... I think once Alice left, it was kind of like, no, they all abandoned
Alice
shit.
was kind of the head of household.
Yeah.
The head of staff. But I think even more than that, I feel like it was the case of maybe the servants didn't want to stay there if they weren't going to be safe because there were no sentries. Or they wouldn't get paid because Tamlin didn't give a shit about any of money.
True.
So there's a variety of reasons.
I mean, okay, especially when I read this the first time, don't hate me. I know you won't, but I totally thought it was fucking hilarious that Rhys was gloating to him. Or I thought his mate was the seer, or when he's talking about, he's like, how's my friend Lucien? The way Rhys talks to him, it's like, there's this level of gloating gloating. Yeah,
like, my friend Lucian.
And the first time I read it, I was like, yeah, fucking tell him, because we all hated we all hated Tamlin after reading Aqua.
Yeah.
So but I think once you read it so many times, there's a level of, damn, like, I don't think you needed that. But I will say, this is the first time that Rhys has been able to actually talk to Tamlin and tell him how he feels. Even before all of the Amarantha stuff, this is the first time that Rhys is actually getting to tell Tamlin how he fucking feels.
Right.
About everything.
And on top of that, I think Rhys is, he let down his mask in the High Lord meeting, but I think he's also, that's not an easy mask to drop. He's thinking, okay, I'm going to be the better male. I'm going to, be how everyone seems to think I am, that kind of thing. And obviously it starts slipping later on, but once he sees that Tamlin doesn't really have much fight in him.
Yeah, then he's like, oof.
But it's like, oh, that's bad.
So I love how even to this point now, Tamlin still thinks that Rhys-Ann coached Feyre to take down his court. I'm like, no, she did that all by herself. Well, she didn't need any coaching for that.
Right.
And Rhys is not thanking Tamlin for saving him, which I guess he doesn't have to, because he wasn't the one. Tamlin didn't do that for Rhys. Tamlin did that for Feyre.
Right.
So there's a level of Rhys is, of course, is not going to be thankful. No. Even though he probably should, he should feel like anyway, that's like a long rabbit hole to go into. But I do like, this is what we used for Liesl's quote at the beginning. I like how he talks about how he begged the stars for Feyre and he got her, and it's like, oh, because it's sweet, because he begged the stars for her, which is not something he did ever. And so of course he's gonna wish upon the stars for Feyre and get her. But I do understand Tamlin's perspective when he's like, okay, I don't have the firepower to fucking man the whole span of the wall.
Which valid.
So what are you expecting me to do? But then of course Rhys comes in with a solution, like, I can give you soldiers, and he's, no.
Fuck that.
I don't want any Night Court ilk on my lands. And it's like, to me, I don't get it. I get it from Tamlin's perspective. He doesn't want anyone associated with the Night Court on his lands, because he's gonna have to see more of Rhys. But it's like, wouldn't you want more people like protecting the wall? But like,
he doesn't
care. He doesn't care about his own life. Why would he care about that?
Right.
So in a character sense, I understand, but also practically, I'm just like, okay, he's giving you the manpower, but you're just petty and don't want to.
And he doesn't want any brutes.
And that's what triggers him. Because now we know why that triggers him. Because everybody calls that to Cassian. Yeah. And it's like, no. Not my friends.
I mean, some of the Illyrians, yes, they're brutes. But I'm defending one, so therefore I have to defend them all.
Right. To protect humans from us. I love how he even sneers at the humans. Of course, to protect them.
And also, he's remembering the humans as related to Feyre.
Well, of course, let's never forget the fact that Rhys's mom and sister got killed and he did nothing. And so, of course, that's, besides the whole Feyre and Tamlin thing, he's always going to hate Tamlin for that.
Right.
So Rhys's discontent for him makes total sense to me. Even besides the Feyre thing.
Right. They had it coming, and then when Feyre happened,
it just made it worse.
It's like, okay, that was the final straw.
Nothing is different. The wall is gone. That's all. It's like, you don't think that makes a difference?
I think that makes a pretty big difference.
Maybe not necessarily a difference on this part of the land.
Yeah.
But definitely on the continent, for sure. And especially with what Eris was saying about Autumn wanting piece of the...
I don't think Tamlin's even considering the continent.
Oh, no, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about anything. And of course, Rhys loses his shit, which is the first time he's ever, at least in our perspective, has ever, like, fully dropped his facade at him.
Fully angry monologue.
Even during the High Lords meeting, he still kept it cool. And now it's, like, finally all coming to fruition right here, and I think it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, you brought this upon yourself, you got your mate, is that enough? No, you nearly destroyed her. She survived it, survived you, and, like, I don't care if you still love my mate, I don't care that you saved her from Hybern 1,000 times, or 1,000 enemies before that. I hope you live the rest of your miserable life alone. It's more satisfying an end than slaughtering you. This is my question for the audience, but this is also my question for us. Does Tamlin deserve what has befallen him? And is Rhys right to throw it back in his face like this?
I think there's, to an extent, personally, where at the very least, Tamlin does deserve it to be thrown back in his face, because throughout all that time, he either didn't see what he was doing, or he didn't want to think about it.
After being told many times.
But now, having Rhys completely drop any mask and just tell it to him bluntly, I think he does deserve to see that, because it means he can't run from it anymore. I mean, he's literally alone in this house, not protected and wanting to die. And, he has to live with what he did. And right now he's not doing that very good. But in terms of if he deserves what happened to him. I don't think I can say that he deserved it, but it was consequences of his own action, regardless, that he must accept. That is my answer.
I mean, I was gonna say basically the same thing. I think in this moment, Reese is in his full right to kind of come at him about this because he never has before.
Mm-hmm.
And this is him being his true self and not keeping it to himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it deserves to be told to him because somebody needs to say it to him in a way that makes sense. You destroyed her. You almost did. Like, nobody has ever said it to him.
Right.
She survived you.
When
like,
he didn't even think he needed to be something that had to be survived.
No one has put it in that framework.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the end here, I think that's why he gives up in this conversation. Is because he knows he's right. You did almost destroy him.
He's like, oh shit, you're actually right, and you're telling this to me to my face. I have nothing to say back.
The only thing I would add to what you said is I think he deserves what has befallen him in the sense of the consequences of what he's done. Because again, like we've said all the time in ACOWAR, he had the rope and hung himself. Feyre didn't push him to do those things.
That's true.
It was very much like she gave him the options. Here, you could do it this way, or you could do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And he went with the hanging.
Yeah.
Because he thought that that's what was best. And he was just wrong.
So yeah, in the long run, he did, I think, combining what we're saying, he didn't necessarily deserve it, but once he started making these decisions, he did.
I don't think, though, that he can't be redeemed. Because I think there are some characters in a book like this, like, you know, with like Kier, for instance. That motherfucker is not ever being redeemed. No. Like, there are some characters where it's like, okay, you have no redemption.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tamlin had pure intentions at first.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to save Feyre. He wanted to get her out of a bargain that he thought that she didn't want, when actually behind the scenes, she did want it. Mm-hmm. He just didn't know it and didn't care to see it. And even when he got confronted with it, he still wanted to save her, regardless of everything. Kind of like how he made that decision in the first ACOTAR book, where he like chose her over the entire territories.
Mm-hmm. But I agree. I do think he can be redeemed, but he has to first get himself out of mud and actually face what he's done.
Because the intentions at first were pure, but then they got warped along the way.
Right.
Into something of entitlement. So I agree with what you said.
I agree with what you said.
Because there are some people who like say, fuck Tamlin, he doesn't have to be redeemed. And it's like, I mean, yeah, we can say fuck Tamlin, but I also think like there could be a possibility in a future book where like he kind of pulls his head out of his ass and he can actually be a good person again.
Right. So, I mean, I'll admit I was in that mindset, Mist and Fury, of like, he can never be redeemed. What the fuck is wrong with him? But yeah, I mean, aside from what he said at the High Lord meeting, he did some redeemable acts in ACOWAR.
Which was just like a petty guy just being like, oh, look, I did her. It's like, okay, this isn't a competition between who did who. Like, we're talking about
he was trying to validate
here.
Himself in that sense, and also, be petty.
He's like, I fucked the High Lady of the Night Court.
I fucked her first. It's like, technically Isaac fucked.
Oh, yeah. Remember him? God, could you imagine what that guy would think? That imagine like, a guy like Chris Evans or Ariana Grande or some sort of level of celebrity. It's like, yeah, the first guy I had sex with, like being that guy having sex with a celebrity.
Right.
Could you imagine?
I mean, and we can end up getting this out or whatever, but a brief digression. I saw a video of a Benson Boone concert where he saw his 7th grade girlfriend in the audience, and he stopped up like, is your name like Casey or something? And she's like, yeah, it is. It's like, I think we dated in 7th grade. She's like, yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's like, oh, well, I hope you're doing well. And then just went on.
Because imagine just having a really bad fallout with like an ex where he's just like, you're not going to be anything, you're not going to do anything, and then like ends up being a fucking celebrity. And
remember, Isaac was so smug. He's like, yeah, I'm getting married soon. Are you jealous?
Because at the time, like, yeah, getting married to her was probably a good option. Like, she was wealthier.
Yeah.
That woman that he married.
And they did look happy together.
He's just like, yeah, dude, I fucked the High Lady of the Night Court.
It's like, dude, I fucked a Fae before she was Fae. Yeah. It's like, I fucked the guy before he's popular.
Yeah, it's like the BTS thing.
Rip any BTS girlfriends who actually dumped them.
Oh God, terrible.
Regretting that now.
More for us.
Anyway.
Anyway, so basically, Tamlin doesn't fight back after Reese blows up. He's like, get out, leave. And that's it. Like, as he leaves, Tamlin he realizes a broken male, broken from his own actions, his own choices. He does not deserve my pity. But as he winnowed away, as soon as he says that, he winnowed away, and it's like, he didn't have any words up. That means anybody could come in the middle of the night and just slit his throat and he wouldn't know.
Right. And he was waiting for it.
He was waiting for him to do the thing that Reese always does when he goes to the spring court, and he came in the front door and knocked. He's like, why didn't you do the same thing that you did the last couple of times you've been here?
Why don't you just threaten me and then I'll piss you off enough that you actually kill me?
I also love how he was assuming it would be him, to do it. And of course, after this, Reese finds Feyre walking home from Valaris with gifts, and her smile, as soon as I landed beside her, snow whipping around, was like a fist to my heart. Find you a fucking man who, when he sees your smile, he's just like,
oh, my heart.
It's so beautiful. Like, above all the sexual innuendo, like, I love that sort of romance.
Yeah, it's sweet. And unrealistic. But also, it can be realistic if you find the right person.
It is realistic when you find somebody like that.
But for the rest of us, no, it doesn't seem very realistic.
No. But she knows immediately something's wrong. She's like, I don't want that bad. And of course, kisses him. It's like, walk me home. Totally from his perspective, it totally even makes me mad hearing her be so sweet and then being like, yeah, dude, he almost fucking destroyed her. Like,
he took her smile.
Yeah, like I could totally see his rage in here.
I'm like, that smile was almost taken.
Yeah, totally how he does it. I think he did just want to confront Tamlin. I don't think it had really much to do, because they didn't resolve that conflict about the wall. No. If that's really what he wanted, then it would have been resolved, but it wasn't, because that's not why he really wanted to go.
It was maybe a plus if they could have talked about it, but he probably didn't even expect them to get to talk.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I agree with Feyre when she says this to him, and to perhaps slaughter him. It's like, whoa, where is this coming from? Like,
very concerned.
It's like, I should have been the bigger male. You're the bigger male most days. You're entitled to slip up. That is a good fucking line. Because it's like, we can't all be perfect all the time. Like, we're going to have moments where we get overwhelmed as people. And it's just like, you know what? I didn't handle it's, Rhysand is most the better male in this instance when he knows he wasn't. He's like, I slipped up. I wasn't the bigger male today. And it's like, at least he acknowledges it and knows it. But he's entitled to do that every now and then, because he can't be perfect all the time.
And he's entitled to be protective of his mate.
True.
He's entitled to be like, hey, you really fucked up.
Especially when he's so wound up. Like, it just doesn't make any of that any easier.
That's true.
But I do agree that that's something that people think all the time. It's like, hey, you know what? If I didn't handle that situation great, or if somebody handles situations habitually terribly, I mean, okay, yeah, then that's just them as a person.
Right.
But it's like me sometimes, if like, after a long day, if I'm not fucking feeling it, and it's like, if I come home and I don't want to say blow up, but necessarily like have this moment of like, I don't want to, like, I have to, it just happens. So it's not all the time, but occasionally.
Which is, I think it's good for that to happen. I mean, it's not great if we like blow up at people we talk about or care about, but like, it's also important to be like, okay, I'm feeling these emotions and I can't really control them right now. And if they blow up, that was bound to happen anyway.
But I will say that if you do blow up, that's a testament to a good friend, whether or not they're going to actually take that personally. Because there's a level of like, yeah, you can take it personally in that moment. And then of course, like the other person will apologize, but it's like, you're really strong, whether it's a couple, friendship, whatever. Like when you know that you can do that and there's not like a level of, okay, I'm going to up and leave now.
Of our friendship is done.
Yeah. So, but yes, looking at her smiling makes him want to go tilt him one more.
He's like, okay, now I want to go back and slit his...
punch his Illyrian blade through his gut is what he says.
That's a more brutal way than slitting his throat, like I was about to say. Using that Illyrian training.
Right. Especially with the sword. Wanting to kill him with a sword instead of magic. That's like the more brutal way of doing it.
That was like him with the rape library.
Wanting to feel
the blood.
Why is that hot? But that's so disturbing that's hot. But whatever. So at the end of the chapter, he goes to buy gifts for Amryn at the Palace of Jewels. But apparently this woman's name is Nev. And she's just the jeweler that he goes to for all of Amryn's stuff. And I will say, this might be my ignorance, but when Rhys has the moment where he talks about Feyre's cuffs, like these cuffs that she had of solid diamond, and he said, she's only worn them twice. One, the night we danced at Starfall. And then the other night was after the war when she just wore those cuffs. Am I not knowing what cuffs are? Aren't cuffs metal?
I mean, it depends on the style of cuff, yeah.
Because why would she just have a piece of metal sticking in her?
Oh, you're thinking of cufflinks. Cufflinks are like the buttons that hold the cuffs closed. Cuffs are the actual ring that go around the wrist.
Oh.
So like the cuff of someone's sleeve is the actual ring part that goes around.
Oh my god. Okay, so I was just thinking that she just had a
that had a diamond sticking in each of her wrists.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like when I think of I guess I do think of cufflinks when I think cuffs. I think of the golds whenever I see on a man's.
Yeah, so those are cufflinks.
So the cuff is the
actual fabric or whatever. And yes, sometimes it can be metal or diamond sense. Where if you think from the Aladdin movie, the cartoon one, where the genie had those metal rings.
Oh,
so those could be cuffs as well.
Oh, okay,
Which is where handcuffs come from.
That makes way more sense. That makes way more sense. Okay, the genie thing, that really, okay, that makes sense. Oh, okay, so
in this sense, I think the diamond cuffs are either like the genie style or they're more just diamond bracelets.
Dude, a whole cuff that's diamond?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but that's a lot more diamond now, right?
Yeah, because I was thinking just one diamond. I was thinking just like one diamond on it.
No, it's completely like a...
Oh, Resand.
Changes the way you think of Starfall then.
Well, thanks for figuring that out for me, because I was not understanding that at all. I literally have that note in here to ask you.
Well, now you know.
Cool. And of course, he buys all the jewels for Amryn that are just, he's like, I can't pick, just buy them all. And the lady's like, diamonds in her eyes, just being like, cha-ching.
Cha-ching. Especially probably because she had pulled them aside for Amryn, to suggest for Amryn, and they were probably very pricey.
Oh, hell.
I mean, they're jewels already.
Right, jewels are expensive. Which, I'm not a jewel girl. I'm not a jewelry girl.
Would you wear diamond cuffs?
Only with Resand? Hell yeah! I don't really like things on my wrists. So I feel trapped. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why you can't have my hair tie on my wrist for too long.
Thus handcuffs are a thing.
I mean, if it's for a couple of hours and we're doing what we're doing, I think it's fine. I don't know, because I've never been in that position, so I can't say. I've also never been in handcuffs in real life, so I wouldn't know. Have you seen that TikTok, though? Sorry, this is a side progression, guys, but have you seen that TikTok of that girl that she was getting arrested, and then she was like a book talk girly or something? She's like, you didn't know that this was like my kink or something? And
you didn't know I was into this. And he's like, whoa. He's like, okay, then.
Dude, every book talk girly getting arrested, they're just like, the cops have no idea.
They have no idea what simmers beneath.
You didn't know I was into this. And they're just like, what do you say to that? If you're the police officer, what do you say?
Or they like lean over like the car and they're just like moaning.
Oh my god, no. I'm
just like, cringe. I'm really in this actually.
Versus me getting pulled over, I'm in tears. I'm just like,
sorry. Know what I did wrong.
So then chapter 12, back on track. We're in Feyre's POV again. And yes, this is the chapter where everybody is together again, minus Nesta. So Cassian dumps a bunch of, like, he dumps like a tree, but he also dumps like
just a bunch of branches
of pine into the townhouse.
Legit, what we call those back at my place, we call that slash, because they're just, I don't even know why we call it that, but it's like anytime like my dad would cut down trees, he would, cut off the branches and then we'd pile them up to a slash pile that sometimes we'd burn or sometimes we'd take to somewhere else. But yeah, we literally called it slash. And so that was one of our chores growing up, of just like, hey, can you go haul that pile of slash?
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's totally what I imagined. He just dumped a bunch of, well, they'd be green in this sense, of just green slash on in the middle of the floor in the room. And a mess to clean up.
I will say though that Cassian and Feyre are the best of. I love them so much.
They are such best friends. They are siblings.
They are.
But like the best friend kind of siblings.
Well, Feyre doesn't know about this holiday. She doesn't know what is involved. The humans didn't have holidays.
I like her teasing though, of like, this is your reading.
It's like, you call that decoration? It's like, though the fact that the fact that he's not in his Illyrian leathers and he's just in a normal black t-shirt.
I know.
I'm like, oh my god, Cassie had a normal garb.
The clothes, while not as fine as anything Rhys or Moore usually favored, suited him.
Just the regular, just seeing him out of the leathers.
And he shrugged off a heavy coat, revealing a black jacket and shirt beneath. And it's like, okay, he can dress up.
Fucking kryptonite. Even worse would be him in a tux. Oh my god, that would be the end of me.
Although I feel like I couldn't see him in it.
No, he would wear one of those nice black suits. Like, not like a tux, but like,
I could see that.
Like a nice black on black. He'd wear one of those.
I could see that. And like doing the kind of thing where he walks in and unbuttons the...
Yes, fucking stop. I don't want to think about it.
With pants probably too tight.
True. Shut up.
I mean, I'm just saying that because that's what I'm picturing Azra's wearing.
It's true. God damn it. But yes, Cassian picks Feyre up in a big hug,
Spins her around.
and then they proceed to open 2 bottles of Reese's famous wine and chug it. How many bottles does Reese have left?
Right. He's probably running out.
Right. And then Azriel comes in, sees their lack of decorating skill, and starts to actually decorate the place. And
or try and fix them. And
he also sweeps. I'm like, so domestic.
He's like sweeping and adjusting things. He's like, I cannot believe you.
It's like, and then
they totally set him up.
Oh, they did. It's almost like you tried to make it as ugly as possible. No, we didn't. And then he's like, Cassian tells him again, he's like, please drink. And then he finally comes over and takes it. Want another one, Az? And then it's like, of course Reese pops up right then and there.
Like, now I know who's drinking it. And he nearly spews it out.
I love how Azriel is about to explain it, and you don't need to explain. I know it was Cassian. I know it wasn't you.
The fact though, he thinks he's actually gonna get in trouble for it. He's like, I would like to explain.
I didn't do that. Well, it's anybody getting caught, whether or not it's a friend or not. It's like, I don't know.
He's like red-faced. He's like blushing.
Well, he also like swigged it.
That's true.
Don't know if he can hold his wine. And so then God fucking damn it. God damn it. Every time Reese just with the random, whenever he's happy, just the random, like, I expected better from an artist. And then she stuck his tongue out at him. And then he's like, save that tongue for later. I've got ideas. Fucking stop.
He really likes that tongue and imagining what that tongue could do. He just likes tongues in general.
Stop. Like, why? Why does he always do that? Because it's so good. Like, I feel like that's something I would love in a partner. But at the same time, I would be so, I don't know if I can go on. God damn it. So every time I think I can handle when Reese does something like that, he surprises me. I'm like, stop. I feel like I should expect it by now, but I still... So then, of course, Moore comes in a puffy pink jacket and with a laugh from Azriel that's like, who let Cassian and Feyre decorate?
It's like they all already know.
Immediately knew. And then, of course, we finally see Amren for the first time, and what an epic entrance this is. Walking in with a big white fur coat, like fucking Brella DeVille or something. That's what I expect.
Definitely.
And
you look like an angry snowball. Because legit, she's, got it covered up over her face. Legit, you can only see her eyes over it. It reminds me of, A Christmas Story. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It was like one of those Hallmark movies.
I think
just one of the younger boys, I think like Ralphie's younger brother or something. He got so dressed up, he couldn't even like move his arms. So he was like waddling this because of how many jackets he had on and scarves and stuff. And so God. I kind of imagine Amren a little bit like that, of just like walking in, of just like...
It's so true though, because then also Amren is cold now because she's Fae, and so there's a level of she's not warm anymore.
Right.
Like she would have been if she was still immortal.
Especially as a fiery death angel.
Oh yeah, for sure. I do love how we love Amren. I mean, she makes everything more uncomfortable, but I also love how she just kind of hits the dagger on the head with everything.
Yeah.
And he's just like, careful boy, I wouldn't want to start a war, you can't win. And then he's like, especially with Nesta Archeron coming in 2 days. Everybody dead fucking silent.
Like, Amren, why are you doing this right now?
Why did you bring her up immediately?
Why did you bring down the mood?
I love how it's said too. I felt the ripple that went through them between Cassian and Moore and Azriel. First of all, what? Why is there... Because they definitely had a conversation about this. They definitely have, all 3 of them. And honestly, the other 2 fucks shouldn't have anything to do with them.
I feel like obviously we know Cassian, and then Moore and whatever her feelings are from, if we think about the moment at the war camp, and then Azriel concerned about his brother and the way that Moore is reacting to his brother.
Azriel is in his own fucked up triangle, square, whatever the fuck, and Moore needs to shut up.
Yeah.
She cannot say anything about Nesta at the moment. They are both in like worse scenarios than he's in. So hers just seems worse.
His is pretty bad.
It is, but like it's only bad because Nesta is very strong. She's a strong personality. Like Elaine's problem doesn't seem as big because she's kind of shy and quiet, and it's tame and it's manageable. Worse than that, I'm gonna say. But Damn, that tension was like real quick. But I do love Amren.
If you imagine like a guy coming up and kissing you and then just like pretending it never happened, like of course that's gonna make you feel like shit. Yeah. And make you question everything of like what even happened? Did I imagine it? That kind of thing. And then now Amren's come along and she's just like, good luck.
Damn. And of course, like Feyre tells her to shut it, but then I love how she's the last thing she says is like, Varian's coming, deal with it. Like
yeah, I guess you didn't need to ask for permission, but thanks for telling us at least.
I guess he's coming to Solstice. Like I like Varian, so I don't mind him.
Yeah.
Deal with it. He's coming.
But yeah, so that is kind of sweet though that Amren's just like, he's coming, deal with it. Like I'm not asking for permission, but just to let you know.
Or it's not a big deal, like he's coming.
It's not a big deal, like... but also totally think that'd be a big deal.
Because that's like bringing your boyfriend or husband home for the first time to your family. Like how Rhys brought Feyre to them the first night when they were at that dinner. It's kind of the same thing, even more so in a holiday setting. And so I think this is the first time that we're actually seeing Elaine as well. We've heard about her up until this point, but we haven't seen her. So she's in the kitchen with Noel and Cara Dwayne preparing for the, I like that she's making something. I like that she's, if we're saying the good things about Elaine before we rip into her, I think that it's good that she's doing something, at least productive in the sense of like, you know what, go into cooking, man. If you want to learn how to cook, by all means.
Right. And in the last book, she had moments where the twins were just like, well, she wanted to cook, so we let her cook with us. So yeah, it is nice that she has something that she's able to focus on in the winter when her flowers are not.
She probably never learned to cook because she never, well, first of all, she never helped in the cottage, but also when she got rich again, like they had servants to do all that.
Right.
So maybe she learned with them, but I don't think that they would have let her cook like they are here. Because she was too much of a bit. She was she was like equivalent to Feyre, a lady of the household, which Nuon and Cara Dwayne probably wouldn't let her do it.
Right.
I mean, they probably would just because of them, but those servants wouldn't have let Elaine do it. So.
100%. They were already scarred enough that she wanted to actually dig in the dirt.
With her bare hands, yeah. So Feyre walks in, to the kitchen and asks about Nesta, which, of course, great. Elaine invited her to dinner, but she never said anything. Like, Nesta never said anything about coming. And I love how I fucking hate it. Feyre's asking her a simple question. Do you think I mind it's worth fetching her? Simple question. She's like, so Elaine clapping back for no reason. Are you asking me as her sister or as a seer?
It's like, no one's even really brought up the fact that you're a seer. And it almost feels like it left off directly from their conversation in the war camp of like, hey, can you use your seer power to find the cereal? Kind of thing. And it's, where did this hostility come from?
In this moment, what fuck? Like, what?
It's like her sweet innocent mask has dropped.
Exactly. This moment in particular is why we think that is one of the many clues to us given that she's not being how she reads.
No.
Like in one of the, she's just like, are you talking as a sister? Or why would anything the seer have the ability have anything to do with this stuff? Why would it?
And I know we're not trying to rip into her, but I also want to say, just for the sake of pointing out clues, being detective work. So specifically when Feyre like looked over at the twins and Sarah Dwayne shook her head of like, not a good day for her. And Feyre's like, okay, so it would make sense the twins know her moods better. But I don't know if this is just like projecting what my feelings of Elaine, but it kind of suggests that if they think this is not a good day for her, then they have seen her be like this before without Feyre being around, suggesting that she lets down her mask like this more often.
Maybe with them.
That the twins have seen.
Or maybe they've seen it. Like, I mean, because they spy, right?
They're spies and they keep track, and maybe, I don't know, maybe she scares them into not telling anyone.
Yep. It's, I mean, because then that's such a bitch thing to say. It's like keep calm, pleasant. Apparently neither sister, from what we found out, said that their gifts. So basically what the inner circle are thinking is that since the cauldron was destroyed, is that their gifts are gone. I doubt it. Even when I read this the first time, I was like, yeah, there's no way.
They were given these messages, but they were given the gifts.
They can't just disappear like that. Like,
especially because the cauldron was remade anyway, so the power's back anyway.
Even if it did, if they're saying it did disappear, which I didn't get, it did. It doesn't make it, she's like, you knew Nesta best. I just thought you would ask to weigh in.
Which is genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were always closer with Nesta than I was. I just am curious.
Yeah. She's like, if Nesta doesn't want to be here tonight, then it's more trouble than it's worth to bring her. Which is true.
True, but wow, Elaine.
Fuck, stupid. I mean, Elaine seems to have been better, but she's still recovering. Apparently, she'd wept for hours the day I'd taken her. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that Feyre made her father into ashes after the war, and then she put them in the ground and has a headstone built for him.
They still buried him.
And so Feyre and Elaine have been to see him. Nesta has never gone. at least that we know of. And Elaine goes every month to go and to cry out to her dad, which it seems like Elaine was more closer with the dad than any of them.
Right.
It's I love how she's just like, Nesta is still a part of the family, and she's like, is she? It's like, why is this hostility at Feyre for no, she doesn't know what's going on.
All of this hostility is always at Feyre, whether it's Nesta taking it out on Feyre, or now Elaine taking it out on Feyre.
Elaine's pissy because of what Nesta said to her, which she goes into now, but like, she didn't know that.
Right.
Whatever.
Why take this out on Feyre when she's genuinely asking because she wants both of her older sisters at Solstice?
For her birthday, let's remember.
Right?
Because they haven't been together on her birthday, and
that I doubt they ever actually celebrated her birthday.
Yeah, why not?
Especially if if their mother didn't like really pay much attention to Feyre. Anyway, so
it's like they kind of sit in silence for a little bit, and then Noelle and Caradwyn go away to give them some privacy, and then Nesta said she didn't want to come to Solstice, and of course, like, it's a little sad. Then she's like, she said she didn't want to come to anything ever.
Wow.
First of all, what a shift in Nesta's character. First of all, to tell Elaine, of all people, that she never wanted to come to anything ever again.
Right.
Or to, I mean, maybe not to necessarily see her, but why would she be so bitchy towards her? The one person throughout the whole books that we have known is the one person that she's actually nice to.
Right.
This is such a switch in character. And it's interesting, but also I'm like,
it is so weird.
So Elaine's kind of showing anger for the first time.
At least, yeah.
True anger.
That's true.
She said that we have our lives and that she has hers. It's like, I'll talk to her. Don't. She won't listen.
To be fair, okay, so the line about you have your lives, I have mine, that is valid. The extent of, yes, Nesta is clearly trying not to live near them, so she is creating her own life. However, regardless of her relation to Feyre, Nesta is still using Rhys's money.
In a very practical sense.
That's like saying to your landlord of like, you're not actually in my life. I mean, okay, actually in that example, yeah, your landlord isn't really in your life, like personally involved in your life, but they're still there as a presence. Oh yeah, I need to pay or whatever.
It's like those couples who break up and then one of them's paying the rent, like the other one, it's like the other one cheated or something. It's like, but I'm still paying, but I'm not living there. You know, it's weird. And it's also like the balls on her to be rude when like she doesn't have any fucking money.
Yeah. Which again, we'll get to in the last chapter of this section, but just that whole situation of like, oh, by the way,
the entitlement.
You're still paying for me. And it's like, okay, we'll see.
Elaine is very much, she's getting more feisty, but at the same time, she seems to be faking the smiles. Because as soon as she hears everybody and she's about to go, she's like, why wouldn't I be all right?
The mask slips
fake
right
as
on.
Shit. Oh my God.
This time, Feyre actually sees it. She's just like, I know that's a fake smile because I've seen it on my face.
It's like, But then, of course, I do kind of like how Cassian kisses her cheek, like, as in greeting, because that's how he would do it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Moore and Amber, even Amber greets her, which I'm like, that is fucking weird. Because especially with her relationship with Nesta, it seems like she wouldn't really like Elaine too much.
Right.
Or I don't know. Like, you know, she thinks Elaine is kind of soft and not really strong.
Right.
I do love how the only one that doesn't actually really go near her is Rhys, just kind of like, so. Because, like, yeah, because she lives with them, so she's probably heard a lot.
Probably.
It's so unfortunate.
Probably.
Yeah, but...
Unless she's not actually at the house then.
Yeah, maybe she's not at the house. Maybe she's somewhere. I mean, honestly, I would want to get out of the house.
Yeah, true.
Glad to hear that.
All theories, of course.
All theory. We don't know. But then the dramaticness of Azriel being the one to emerge the last. It's just the way that it's so dramatic too. It's like sitting with a glass of wine in his hands, wings tucked in, like
also his outfit.
Simple black jacket and pants.
Also dressing up for finery.
I felt more than saw my sister go still as he approached. Her throat bobbed.
Honestly, I feel like that's because she doesn't think that she can hold up her mask around him because he's a spy. Part of it is this weird tension that they have. True. But I think genuinely it's because he is a spy master and he sees everything.
I could agree with that. But then there's also a part of me in this instance where I think it's just base. She's trying to, I I think not in an opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's trying to deflect him. So she's not trying to put on a mask. She's trying to deflect, to flirt with him so that he doesn't see what's really going on.
So what I was going to say next is very similar to that in the sense of she also may want to get close to him to know what he knows, to figure out what he knows about her as well.
To flirt with him because he knows that he's vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Do we already?
What kind of fucking bitch?
If that's true.
If that's true, she's a fucking bitch. If it's not, stay away from Azrael.
But wait, no, stay away from him anyway.
Exactly.
That was really shit. But I think the flirting with him is either her being really awkward because she actually does like him, or there's like a deeper thing going on where it's like she is trying to awkwardly flirt with him because she knows that he likes her. So, because Act of War totally proves that she doesn't necessarily really care about him.
Yeah.
Like that one moment after he saved her, I will not fucking get past it where she just like left him when he's like bleeding.
Just thanks.
To make it even worse, she's just like nestled between Amber and Mort in time to see Elaine say to Azrael, "Hello." Az said nothing. He just moved toward her. Oh my god, moving with that intent. Oh my god, imagine that happening to you.
Elaine, snore. Az, chill out, dude.
So much intent.
You don't want to deal with her.
More tensed so badly. Also, fuck up. She doesn't need to tense about.
More, you have no right to do that.
They're openly flirting in front of Moore now, and it's hilarious. A little bit.
No, it is.
I know that she actually does like Azrael in a way. Like, again, not romantically, but it's funny that now they're flirting in front of each other. And he takes the potatoes from her, and his voice soft as night. Sit, I'll take care of it. Oh my god.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll certainly go sit down.
No, he's putting the potatoes down. Not you.
I mean, I'll certainly go sit down. Are you sitting down too? Can I sit on you?
So obviously, because she has an apron on and because she was making stuff all day, she has to go back and change. This moment was so awkward because every other time before this has never happened. Also, he's so sweet to her and kind, she doesn't deserve it. Elaine goes and Cassian's about to dig in. Moore has already started eating. And Azrael grabs Cassian by the wrist and says, "You don't start eating until everybody's at table." But at first, it's like he says, "Wait," with nothing but pure command in his voice.
Hot. I will say though, I think reading it again, at first I thought that it's like Cassian hadn't gotten any food, which is why I'm like, yeah, Moore has half a plate already eaten kind of thing. But I think it was specifically the fact that Cassian was about to go in for seconds or for the potatoes that Az just sat down.
The thing that she made or like that she had that,
And so it is also of that of like, she just finished making this, you already have food on your plate, wait. Although Cassian's just like, what? For gravy?
It's like, I never knew you were a stickler for manners, because he never has. Is it interesting, though, that Rhys brings up his mom just the few chapters before when he talked about Rose Hall? It would be...
They're dropping subtle hints for us.
It would be interesting. Like, it totally then makes sense if it wasn't. Because if he saw her recently, then of course he could get triggered by this.
Right.
But I also don't think it has everything to do with his mom.
Yeah.
I think it's also him just trying to be like... He's trying to faux be her mate somehow.
A little bit.
He's like trying to be like, respect her, respect my woman. But it's not your woman, Azrael.
No, it's not. But it also feels like he's trying to not take the place of Lucien, but fill in that gap that Lucien leaves when he's not here.
Which is why Lucien should not give her space. I feel like Lucien is doing this wrong. I mean, obviously don't like do stuff without consent. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But he should not be around. I think he's trying to think that giving her space is what's going to help here.
No, she definitely he needs to be around her.
And she needs to get to know him.
She needs to be supervised.
You need to watch her. And it can't be Azrael because...
He's certainly watching something else.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
But yeah, I can understand if he's stressed, if he did go see his mother.
I think it partially had something to do with his mom, how she was treated, but also I don't think that it was all his mom. Because even Feyre's just like, see.
I see. I don't fully believe all of that, but well, she believes about the mother, but it can strike at odd times. It's like, well, yeah, that's usually going to be triggered by something else.
But it directly had something to do with Elaine. Elaine, because like he's trying to make it so that Elaine, who he is seeing as kind of waifu material, is getting treated nicely. He doesn't want to be like the dad or stepfather indirectly. It's like he's like personifying himself in this role.
Right.
Badass role.
Stop it.
I understand why. Like,
of course we understand why. That's Sarah's writing style. But stop it, Az.
No, she does not.
Leave her alone. She's bad for you.
So now we get to the very funny bit of this where Amren, she's actually eating mortal food now, which is hilarious because
I bookmarked this page.
In the whole last Akatar series, she's drank blood because she's a Fae now. I love how Sarah puts in this detail because I would have thought that same thing. It's like, well, what does she do now? Like she has to eat, but she tried to eat like soup when she first came back and she vomited, so she's got to do it in waves. Yeah. This whole bit about she's like, oh, and then there's the other unpleasant results of eating, and then all the boys are kind of like they go forward because they know a shit joke's coming, and it's like,
boys, you can't take them anywhere.
No, any piss or like burp or fart joke, and they're like gaga. She's like, do you know how inconvenient it is to find to relieve my, and she's saying this very seriously. She is not saying this in a joking manner.
But even Feyre and Moore are trying not to laugh.
Yeah, Moore gripped Feyre under the table and was like trying. And then Rhys is like, God, should we start building public toilets for you, Amren, so that you know when to go? He's like, I mean it, Rhysand.
I like how like his lips are wobbling from how hard he's trying not to laugh.
That's what I feel like I do. Because I love how it eventually bursts when she's like, you know, I should have chosen the male form. I could have just whipped it out and, you know... And they just like burst out laughing because she said whip it out. It's like an old woman saying whip it out. It's just like, what the fuck, you knew how to say that?
Whip it out and go wherever you like without having to worry about spilling on.
I will say, for somebody, like, imagine that though. All jokes aside. Imagine an old woman who, it's kind of like the Alzheimer's thing where like people don't, when they regress, they don't remember how to do things. Like, I bet it probably is hard to pee as a woman. It's way easier to pee as a man. So I can kind of understand what she's saying there.
Yeah.
But it is funny as hell.
Yeah.
That she just doesn't know. She's like, well, I know how to do it, but it's hard.
And the fact that she's like seething, but I could also see her face probably getting flushed up. She's like, I've seen animals. It's like these guys are animals.
Also, who watches animals pee? Like, I don't think I've ever really...
Maybe ones that she hunted down before she was part of court.
The only time, like, cats and dogs. I don't think I've ever seen a wild animal just pee. Because I also haven't been around a lot of wild animals to, like, be able to just watch them pee.
Yeah, so, that's a weird kink.
Yeah. The furry kink is what that is.
Not even entirely, but
not
that's
all
just
furries, but... Dude, I bet there's some people out there.
Probably.
There's always someone.
There's a kink for everyone.
True. Which, so, can I just say how fucking Elaine has to ruin a goddamn moment? This was so funny, and then she just ruins it. And she's like, could you have chosen any form you wanted? And then dead silence.
Also, the fact her face was red from the unfiltered talk, it's like, okay, so it's either talking about relieving oneself or sex, like, you don't talk about anything?
Or the period thing last episode, right. It was, okay, what is okay to talk about, and what's
That's
not?
like all bodily features. And like, okay, there are times when I've had indecent conversations over a meal, and those ones have been like, okay, now like we've got through it a little bit, I would like us to stop talking about this. But you know, it's not like I'm completely opposed to it like just popping up in conversation.
I feel like the only times I've ever felt like we couldn't talk about something was in public. Like if we're out at like even in my own family, if we're out somewhere, we're not going to talk. Well, if there's a lot of us
and no one's ever actually listening.
Yeah. Now, if it's just like a few people, but if we're at a private dinner with just people in my family that I know, of course we're going to talk about that indecently, because there's no one to impress around here. Like there's level of...
Besides, everyone wants to hear the tea anyway.
Also, hasn't she had sex? Like why would that be indecent? It probably was bad. So that's why she doesn't talk about it.
Right. I mean, or she's remembering what she's heard of Rhys and Feyre.
Grayson probably sucked.
Yeah, probably.
I do love how though when Amren does say it, she's before any form I simply was. She said she thought the female form was more asymmetrical, and then this would be a me moment. I would be more looking down at myself and being like, yeah, right.
Whereas I look down and I'm like, no.
But you find women attractive?
That's true.
Are they more asymmetrical than men?
Usually.
Yeah, okay. Well, there
I
you
think
go.
symmetrical women is like a fantasy. Legit.
Yeah.
But that's
True.
just the realism getting in that. Definitely, that is definitely a more you.
Yeah. And
More
like,
and you.
I mean, like, hell yeah.
You're gonna be like, okay, yeah, I could see that.
Cassian snickered. He's like, yeah, boobs.
But so the whole thing with more. And
Well, yeah, because she's a lesbian. There's a level of like, she's like, yeah, of
Yeah.
course women are more appealing.
I'm just like, yeah, I mean, these are pretty great, but also on other women, perfect.
I feel like she's subtly trying to tell them, but
But everyone just passes over it.
I don't think they are, though. I think they know, they just don't want to, like, assume.
And they don't want to say anything in case it makes it awkward.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, you like women, right? I could imagine Cassian being that one guy that's just like, so you're into girl on girl? Like he would say something like that.
So you like girl on girl action, right?
He would try to be the dumb jock that's really trying to be hot, like trying hard to,
a himbo.
Yes, trying hard to be respectful, but then at the same time being just like, yeah, you like what I like, right?
You like girls like I like girls, right?
Though I will say, Amryn is 100% right here, and I think she should ream Elaine for sure. Amryn says, with narrowed eyes, straightening, are you asking a curiosity from my past or your own future? And then Elaine, the most snarky she's ever gotten towards Amryn specifically. Amryn has never looked at Amryn in the eyes before. She is now, I think that is, if we're going with our theory, is that she knows that Amryn's no longer a threat anymore.
Yeah.
And so she can look at her.
Definitely.
And so, like, Elaine has more power than she does. And so there's a level of, like, now I can look at her. But before, no. I
can agree with that.
There's no going back to being human, girl. She's right. She is 100% right. And Amryn is always right when she says something, but everybody goes on the defensive for, which is why Amryn and Nesta are so kindred spirits. Because, like, Nesta and Amryn are right in a sense a lot of the time. They just never maybe say it in the right way, or they say it in a bitchy way.
Right.
There is no way for her to go to human. And that's why we think, especially with this scene, this is a clear indignation of Elaine that she is not ready. She has not transitioned at all. Like, she is finding some sort of way to be human again.
And I feel like that's also a similar thing, is she is always asking questions. And now, like, going with your theory of the Amryn is not a threat anymore. But Elaine also knows that Amryn has a library of knowledge in her head as well, and has experienced transitioning from one form to another.
True.
So it's just like, okay, she's not a threat anymore. I'm going to ask this.
So that is very ominous to me, because it makes me think like she wants to find a way to be human again. I love that Feyre's trying to help her sister, but it doesn't seem like Elaine wants help. It's like, it seems Nesta and Elaine are in very kind of similar positions, but very opposite at the moment. Like, Nesta is isolating herself, right? Like you said. But Elaine is getting into it, but she's also not wanting to accept help.
Right.
So they're kind of in similar positions, just Nesta looks more worse.
Right.
I mean, they're paying Elaine, but she's living with them, so it doesn't look bad.
Right.
She doesn't have, I mean, yeah, she's working, I guess. I mean, she's working in, you guess you have that. She's working and making food and everything, but she doesn't have a job. She doesn't do anything else.
She's probably left alone most days.
So it's to do what? We don't know.
We have theories.
So, of course, Amryn, you have a spectacular gift for ruining dinner. That was not Amryn's fault. That was Elaine's. But whatever. Pick on someone your own size. I feel bad for the mice, Azriel muttered.
I love his humor.
I will say, though, that I hated that Azriel, it's like a quote here. I glanced at the others. Reese was frowning. Cassie and Moore were both grimacing, and Azriel, it was pity on his beautiful face. Pity and sorrow as he watched my sister.
He better not be hitting her just because he pities her.
Kind of seems like it, though, doesn't it? He's
does.
like, oh, look at this. We have said that Azriel is the Black Knight version of, like, he sees damsels in distress and he thinks that that's romance. And he's like, I'll save them.
Or in any case of saying, like, oh, they're struggling, I'll save them and give them romance that they are not having. And then that leads to...
And they don't deserve. So it's like, he wants to love someone so badly that he's willing to just, I don't want to say give it to anybody, but like any damsel in distress, he's like,
It's not gonna work, buddy.
It's like, it's sad though.
You need to change up which damsels you're looking at.
If you pity for the person that you're like starting to seem to like, even Reese didn't pity Feyre. It was never pity. It was out of anger for her being in a tumultuous situation. It was never like pity that she was there.
But even then, I guess if we're using that description, like Asriel hasn't ever really shown any anger towards what happened to Elaine.
Except Lucian, and that's just male on male aggression.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't really in a stasis during that moment when they got thrown in the cauldron anyway for him to really be angry. Of course, because this triggers Feyre to want to fix things, she goes to Nesta's doorstep in her shitty apartment. Apparently she isn't there. So then she winnows outside and almost falls on the ground. She's like pinwheeling or whatever, and like Reese is laughing at her. That's you. That's totally
100%. And of course, if I found myself a partner, they would just laugh at me.
I respect, though, how Feyre didn't want Reese to track Nesta down because it was an invasion of privacy. Mm-hmm. But I also love that, like, Feyre's too cold for that, so just
fine.
Let's quicken this, okay? There's like 4 places she could be. Let's just do it.
Right.
And Nesta chooses the seediest tavern in Valaris to hang out in. It's called the Wolf's Den that she patronized a lot. So funny. The Wolf's Den. There's pleasure clubs, fine restaurants, and yet your sister managed to find the seediest, most miserable place in Valaris.
Which every city has one, even the best.
That's true. That's so true.
But yeah, just her luck. She probably was just walking around.
And found it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Reese lets her go in alone, but he's outside, and he says, if someone propositions you, tell them we'll both be free in an hour. Sarah really wants to have a 3-way.
Oh, 100%.
She really wants one of these characters to have a 3-way.
Yes.
And I'm waiting for it.
Mm-hmm. She keeps hinting at it.
I don't think it's going to be Reese and Feyre, though.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Helion will be involved, so.
Probably. More than likely.
More than likely. So then, of course, we're still in Feyre's POV in chapter 13. And so her sister is drinking with people and playing cards. Probably playing poker of some sort. It doesn't really say.
Yeah.
But so basically, what we find out is that Nesta doesn't go to these places. Like, she doesn't have any friends. But she goes up and picks guys, takes them to the apartment, and has sex with them. Mm-hmm. Which is hilarious because from the portion that we know, Nesta's always been a virgin. Mm-hmm. So if she's actually having sex with these people, who did she have sex with first?
Yeah.
Which is so interesting because we all thought Nesta was going to be the one to actually lose her virginity to Cassie.
Yeah. But no, she's going around and sleeping with people.
Which is kind of sad, but also...
Again, doesn't fit like the classic fantasy fairy tale.
It doesn't, and I kind of like it. Yeah. Not that she's sleeping with random people that she doesn't care about. I mean, hey...
But it's the realistic part of it.
If you want to hook up with people to hook up with them, that's fine. Like...
Fae hookup culture.
Fae hookup culture. That's fine. There's a level of that's fine. I mean, they don't have to worry about diseases.
Right.
So I like how that SJM phrases this in a way that like Elaine and Nesta have switched places. Because now Nesta's the one who's like not eating. She looks malnourished. She's very tiny, not muscled up. Like she's the one that looks happy instead of Elaine. She's still wearing the coronet up in her hair and she still has her gray gowns and she looks clean despite where she's living.
She's got to have good hygiene if she's taking Fae males. So.
True.
Especially because the males that she's currently with at least seem like rich pricks.
That's what, Reese said. I will say, in a weird way, it makes sense. When I read this the first time, it didn't make sense why Nesta and Elaine switched character arcs. But when I thought about this more when I was writing the notes, it kind of does. Now, here's why. Nesta is prone to action. When things are in a very, you have to do this or we're going to die state in these high stakes situations, Nesta comes through every time in a high stakes scenario. Anytime things are at peace, she ruins it or does something or like she doesn't want to live in peace. There's nothing, she cannot understand something that isn't high stakes or like peace is not something that she has.
Right.
Versus Elaine, she can't step up when things are in. And that's why she got depressed during the war because everything is going to go to shit. Everyone's going to die, whatever. So of course she's going to be depressed in that way. Then when peace finally is about, she comes out of her shell. In a way, I didn't get that the first time I read it. I was like, why is Nesta being like this? This doesn't make any sense. Why is Elaine all of a sudden being like better? It's like, in a character way, it does make sense for them.
Yeah.
But it still sucks. It still sucks.
Definitely.
That Nesta is having this stupid...
I do pity her, but at the same time, I don't condone her actions.
She's doing this on her own fruition, like...
Yeah, spending all of Reese's money.
Yeah, So she's drinking and she kind of looks up, sees Farah, but she's bored when looking at her. And then as soon as the guys across the table see that it's Farah, immediately scared. They're like, oh, hi, lady.
They set their cards down and they're like bowing of, what can we do for you, lady? And she's like, I would like to talk with my sister.
And they immediately leave too.
They're like, yep, got it.
It's like, and then Nesta doesn't even bother to acknowledge her. Just sitting there. Okay. And then, so which one was going home with you tonight? And it's like, I hadn't decided. Still as an animal, still as death. I once wondered if that was her power, her curse, granted by the cauldron. So Feyre's on this kick that death is Nesta's power, which makes sense. I think it would. Because if Elaine's kind of the person of life, the grower of things, it would make sense that she got more of a good gift, while Nesta would get the bad one. In a character sense. Though I also think Nesta being still as death is hilarious, because Nesta is way more Fae than Elaine. Like, she is pure Fae in this, but she's always been like that, though. And then, of course, Rhys is talking to her mind about how they're not really talking to each other. And it's like, we could go on like this for all night. And Rhys is like, Nesta would win. She's like, whatever. And
Second time Rhys is like, my money's on Nesta.
And we know he's good at betting. We know he bets on the right horse, so.
Yeah, sometimes, unless he's against Az.
True. You gotta stand up for your boy. I do think that Nesta is very interesting and that she knows when Rhys and Feyre are talking to each other. I mean, you could sort of observe that Rhys is probably outside, but it's weird that she knows.
And honestly, probably Feyre's, I mean, maybe if Nesta is actually very observant, like she often is, she probably can tell when Feyre's like eyes go distant or something. Because Sarah writes that a lot of people's eyes show what's happening.
But she's really the only one that actually notices it.
Right, or cares to notice, I guess, even though she actually cares.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, sorry, before we continue, just Rhys freezing his ass off out there. And complaining about it.
And it's just like, who says he's here? Where one goes, the other follows.
Kind of true.
She's right. She's very observant.
Yeah.
She's so much like Cassian. It's crazy. Very much seems. So Nesta makes Feyre walk into a lot of like phrases. Because she's talking. She's like, Elaine invited you to dinner. Why didn't you come? It's like, she could have eaten with me here. Why does it have to be at your place? Elaine wouldn't be comfortable here. She's like, well, where is here, Feyre? Why wouldn't she? And so everybody hears this. And so it's a level of the lady coming in and saying, this place is too seedy for her. Nesta totally makes her walk into that.
Yeah. And she's like, this wouldn't win me any supporters.
Because she knows that it's bad. It's like, Elaine is overwhelmed by crowds.
Yeah.
The unspoken words of your court dragged us into this world. Come on, bro. Take that away, man.
She's still feeling that? I mean, I can kind of understand that.
Can you get to it then? I'd like to return to my game. Solstice is the day after tomorrow. What will it take to get you to come? Her birthday. Let's remember, this is Feyre's birthday, which they don't seem to care about. And she's having to bribe her sister into going to the birthday party.
The birthday party / Christmas celebration.
Why?
But honestly, I feel that though.
Having to bargain somebody to go?
To do stuff, yeah. I mean, that was basically what my relationship with my brother was growing up. Is anytime I wanted him to do something with me, I started by asking him just if he would and why he would. And, he wasn't very verbal about that. And then I just started figuring out that bribing him usually worked. Until he realized he didn't want anything that I had. And then bribing was kind of moot. But
I feel like that feels so like disingenuous when you're especially as someone being on the end of like having to bribe. That feels so sucky. Like,
I definitely did.
Why do I have to bribe you to come to this thing? Like,
right.
You should want to come.
Or why do I have to bribe you to spend time with you?
Right.
So I absolutely understand Feyre's point of view in this situation.
And it's
because I've said that phrase before. What can I do or what can I give you for you to do this?
It's like, so you're bribing me. It's like, well, you don't seem to be reasoned with, so it's, I mean, I get why Nesta's kind of upset about this, because it's like, they don't have holidays, but at the same time, if you've never had holidays, wouldn't you want one where you got free stuff? Like, right. I don't understand why she wouldn't get anything because they don't like her, but Feyre might have got her something, Elaine might have got her something.
Although with how Elaine's been acting, maybe not. But I appreciate that, I mean, obviously Rhys is listening in because he's a snoop, but I appreciate that he threw a shield over them to block out the sound, at the very least. So
that Nesta wouldn't get Feyre caught in a scenario where she said shit again.
Yeah, protective hubby.
She's still adjusting to be Fae, which I get that, but it almost seems like she's more upset about not wanting to do inner circle things than to spend time with Elaine. Like, she's like, she could come here, she could go to apartment. Why do I have to be with your merry band? It seems like she has a problem with the inner circle, which has to be Cassian, because she doesn't want to be around him.
Mainly
I'm
Cassian.
going to assume.
She already had some issues with, the rest of them.
Mm.
And, you know.
And definitely not more. Like,
Yeah, the way
no.
that happened with Moore and what happened with Cassian. I think she could get along with Asriel,
Mm.
but you wouldn't know until, like, she was actually there. And apparently there's tension with Elaine right now. And, you know, Nesta's always kind of been at odds with Feyre. Definitely Rhys is not a big fan of her either. So it's like, it makes sense. She kind of has issues with all of them.
Yeah, so it's upsetting, but of course, Feyre tries one last time. You're my sister. She said, I'm not going to. The father would want you to. Don't finish that sentence. The worst thing that Feyre probably could have said to her. Like, Nesta already seemed pretty tensed about the whole father thing, especially not coming to his grave. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like that was the best thing that she could have said, but also I don't think it's Feyre's fault.
It's not wrong of her to bring up Pop.
No, but it seems for Nesta that's a bit more of a trigger than I think Feyre realized it was.
Yeah.
And so then Feyre proceeds to, you know, Nesta says, get out. And then she's like, well, what about my rent? She's serious. She's serious. She told me to get out. And then she's asking me about fucking rent.
Not even just get out, but like you just like snapped and you've been very stubborn and haven't doing anything. And then you have the balls to say my rent. And Feyre's like, what about it?
I say, no, bitch, get a job. Like,
and she's just like, it's due at the end of the month. Yeah, we're aware of that because we keep getting all your bills for your drinking and your apartment, as seedy as it is.
Would never.
Honestly, I agree with Feyre here. I'm just like, come to the party then.
Yeah, come to Solstice if you want your rent money. I'm not going to come back here again.
Yeah, and I don't have it on me right now.
Yeah, so come to. Of course, that's going to get her to come because she needs to live there. So
right.
there's when I was reading this the first time, I was like, oh, she's going to show up. And also for drama's sake.
Right, drama's sake. I hate that we just know that inviting her in that way of like, come and you'll get your money is definitely going to lead to it's basically Feyre inviting a very dark storm to come rain on her birth party.
But she wants her there because she wants them all together.
Right. But she's not going to be there how Feyre wants her there.
No.
Which is unfortunate.
And it's like, I tell this to Liesl all the time. There's a level with family where, like, maybe this is my personal opinion at the moment, but you can't make somebody do or go or how you want them to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying that you should give up on them, but there's also a level of, you can't, like you just said, you can't make your brother come and do stuff with you. Like,
I tried.
even though you want them to, like, if they don't want to do it, there's no way that you can force them, and you can be upset about that.
And if you do end up forcing them, then you got to be prepared for the consequences.
You gotta be prepared for them to not want to be there because they never want to be there first, right. Which is sucky. Yeah, but I can understand it too. But yeah, so very quiet on the fly back. Mm-hmm. So then our last chapter 14, is in Rhys's perspective, and it's really interesting because it has nothing to do with Nesta. It doesn't really have anything to do with what we've been talking about so far. Mm-hmm. So it's Rhys and Moore, which we haven't seen that in a little while, walking side by side along the Sidra, and so they're walking around in this place. A lot of rich estate houses that were down in through here that got hit the most by the adder attack when it burst, because like it's all rubble now. Mm-hmm. And I will say the in this monologue that he has about, you know, how he went to some of these private boat houses when he was younger, and he's like, they used to have summer boat races, and I was like, that sounds pretty neat. I was like, yeah, that's also sounds like rich people shit. But like, yeah. I do appreciate how he's having this talk with Moore, though, because I remember when reading ACOWAR, and I was like, yeah, that tension is not over between them. And I like how he's taking a minute to actually talk about that with her.
Because in a way, it feels like they've kind of been avoiding each other, and definitely avoiding talking about this.
Oh, for sure. So I'm glad that he understands that, and I'm glad that he's, you know, talking to her about this. Mm-hmm. I do kind of agree when he's talking about, like, the Hewn City and, you know, Kier and Eris. Why has she waited so long to kill them? She could ask any of them to kill them at any time, and she could kill them herself because, like, they've all given them the hunting rights. Why is she waiting so long? Mm-hmm. With Eris, I think it's because I think she knows that he's not actually evil, and that's why she's not killing him. And asking somebody to kill him. They
wouldn't want to go to war.
True, but I also think with Kier, I don't really know who would take his place, but I also don't know why she's struggling to kill him. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I can't give an explanation. Yeah. It's more of just a curious thing.
I mean, because if I think of, like, other, like, situations I've come across in other books where it's like a child has to kill their parent or whatever, you know, there's that level of like, oh, I have to kill them, or even though I hate them, you know, they're still my parent, in that level of they did raise me or whatever. But in this sense, it doesn't quite feel like that, because she has definitely been like, I am going to kill them. They are going to die. I'm not going to feel about it.
Or yeah, there's a level with Kier that, you know, Rhys says in here, he's never, she has not referred to him as her father in a long time. Right. So there is a question know why Moore is waiting so long. But we don't really know that because we don't really know.
Right.
So again, as they're walking along and whatever, like the wealthy people who lived here are selling the land rather than rebuilding because they have, they have other houses and other parts of the territory apparently in this valley. So all this walk is to tell Moore that the dun 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 what is coming. Kier is finally coming to Valaris and soon. Damn it.
Yeah.
He's coming to Valaris in the spring, he said. And the only reason that they're curious about Valaris is because they never knew about Valaris until the human queens, those bitches, made it not secret anymore.
Right.
And then he knows that that's where Moore stays. So he wants to torment Moore by going there and ruining it.
Legit, just for that.
Just for that. They don't care about not being under their mountain.
They like their mountain.
They do.
It's dark and creepy, just like that.
Though I will say, the one thing Kier did, which is what makes Kier an interesting character, is that he did come through on the war front.
That's true.
And he did kill a lot.
With his dark.
And they lost a lot of people as well. So it's kind of fucky. I'm not saying that he should be given the benefit of the doubt, but he also, he went in, he did his due. Yeah. He did what he was supposed to do, and now Rhys kind of has to
follow through on his end.
I do think it is bad that they can't threaten with Amren anymore.
Yeah.
Where dude, that's such a good tactic, but they can't, which is also what makes, I feel like that's going to be Amren's struggle.
Yeah.
Throughout the rest of these books is that she's no longer going to be a powerhouse, which I think she can maybe grow her magic up a little bit, but she's never going to
get some training from Cassian.
But she's never going to be like she was.
No.
So that's going to be her kind of defining character moments through here.
Right.
I also love the little description of they can't talk about Moore's mother. Because, and it's why? I mean, I guess I understand why.
We're not really given.
The only time we ever heard her talk about her mother was when she broke Kier's arm more after the Court of Nightmares.
And her mother had kicked her out.
I mean, obviously her mother probably thinks the same way as them and has outed her, obviously. Though I will say, as they do talk, I love how he's like, did you get Feyre anything? It's like, I got her so-and-so. And she's like, so nothing. Yeah, I didn't. He knew immediately that he didn't get her anything.
It's it's impossible.
Is it not hard, though, to buy for significant others? I mean, I've never really had to buy a gift for a boyfriend before because I've never been in one long enough where, there would be exchanging of gifts. But I will say, I feel like it's easier to buy for friends because, I know what to get them because they talk about it all the time versus for somebody, especially someone you love, there's a level of, you're going to keep second guessing yourself about, is this good enough for them? Because they're so great. I don't know what to get them.
Right. You don't want them to think otherwise.
So it's hard. It's hard getting stuff for lovers.
It definitely
for sure. I usually just try to get them something genuine. Not like a bought gift. More like a time or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's funny that Moore gives apparently shitty gifts to everybody. Rainbow shirts with ruffles and...
Or here in this sense, cufflinks. A drawer of very, very fancy cufflinks.
That Rhys never wears.
That he never wears and that get more ridiculous each one because he never wears them.
But also, I kind of understand that at some point you're going to get shitty gifts when you do it for 500 years.
The first year or so, or first century or so, there might be some good ones in there.
Right.
But then eventually you just decide, okay, well, I know I'm getting this, I know I'm getting that.
But I do appreciate how, though, when he talks about how Cassian and Azriel have been overseeing security for Kier coming to Valaris. She's like, they have? It's like, yes, they care, bitch.
Also, they would do that anyway, because it's their home too.
It's also Kier. If Eris is coming with him, fuck him too.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Eris is coming with them.
Probably.
Though I will say, the more important part about this chapter and the more thing is about Moore as a character as we're getting into it in probably future books, is that Moore is going to be a diplomat now. Well, she hasn't decided yet, but
she's probably
going to do it. Az can learn the secrets of the territories, but Moore, and honestly, the perfect job for her, I feel, as a character, but also as how she's been the go-between between most of these courts, especially with Winter.
Yeah.
Moore knows how to flit about the continent, making sure none of these places, try to break the peace or try to enter the human lands, or she's trying to entice them with other things. So it's like, you can't enter the human lands or you're going to be obliterated. The boys can handle the Court of Nightmares while you're gone, but
Yeah.
What do you think about him giving her this proposition to flit about around?
I know Reese says that it isn't because he doesn't think that she can handle the court nightmares. I agree. I think she's perfectly capable of handling that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, though, that Reese also, I feel like, I don't know, it's hard to put into words, but I feel like Reese does want to give her a purpose, similar to what he did with Lucian. He wants to give her a purpose so that she doesn't sit around feeling stressed by the fact that Kier is coming.
Yeah, because that's all that she's thinking about.
Right.
And Kier and Eris together, like, I like how, more specifically, before I go into what you said, I like how she finally tells Reese how she feels about it. Because I think she's only told Feyre about how she feels when Kier and Eris are together.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, when they're together, it makes it feel like every time you're around, all that stuff with your mom, your sister, Feyre gets all brought up, and it gets all...
Yeah.
And then she's like, if it's any consolation, cousin, I wasn't great the other day. She's like, is he dead? Then you were fine.
We're fine.
That was funny. It's like, he deserves it. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that part of it is, though, to get her away. Just so that she doesn't see. I don't think it's that he thinks that she can't handle it. I agree with you. But I think there's a level of, like, I don't think she can handle them in Rita's.
Mm-hmm. Seeing them in Rita's.
Or, them being in spots that she's been in Valaris. I think that's something that she can't handle.
Yeah. And, like, she'll pretend that she's fine, but Reese does know her.
Because then that's all that's going to be thinking, and he gives her a purpose to go away at times and to help these courts.
It will ruin those spots for her if she sees specifically Kier in those spots.
And I also do like how Reese goes into how his cousin has felt cooped up, because during the war, we always talked about how Moore was different than the boys because she traveled the world.
Mm-hmm.
And she was with the human warband during the 500-year war all that time ago. And so she's always been somebody that wants to travel. That's always been something that, like, Moore as a character has loved.
Right.
And so, especially with the 50 years, having to stay in Valaris and being cooped up there for all that time, and then the war, she needs to get out. Like, I like how he talks about how there was a noose around his cousin's neck. Yeah. Like how she would slowly melt away if she didn't get out of this territory for
she
long.
Definitely needed to get out.
Because she was the one who had a seraphim blade during the whole, like, she learned other people's fighting techniques. She learned other languages. She met other people. She loves doing that shit. So, of course,
she met her lover that way.
Yeah, and maybe she'll meet another one. But I love how, again, with Reese, there's always choice. He's not making her do this. But also, does he win if I go? Is what she says. And I think his response is perfect. Only you can decide that. I can't tell you. Because it's true. Like, he only wins if you think he does. Right. If you're going because of, like, actual court business, then you're not running from him. Right. It's just a casual, hey, we're not here at the same time.
Right. Now, if it happens too many times, Kiera's going to start bringing it up. But,
But even then, if it's not what it is, then let him think that.
That's true.
But it's not. And then, of course, we get the end shot of her looking off into the sunset at the continent. And
so perfect.
I think that's going to be how they're foreshadowing the continent stuff. How we're going to get more continent perspectives and other perspectives from courts across the sea. Yeah. So I think that's pretty neat. And I'm excited for that. Yeah. But yeah, that's chapters 7 through 14, folks. There it is.
Yeah, some of those chapters actually were pretty short. Like, I always forgot that.
They were pretty short, and then some of them were, like, really long, and then I was like, oh. But I love these chapters. They were so good.
Sorry. But now, since we've gone through the main deep dive, we will be starting our second section where we talk about the graphic audio. I still have not listened to this, which I just haven't got graphic audiobooks yet. But I know I definitely will be going in and listening to them, especially for this section.
No, I mean,
a certain voice.
And I can definitely share it with you now that we're in the same place together. Yeah. I couldn't share it with you before because we weren't in the same place.
Right. But anyway, so take it away.
Hi, guys.
Chapter 7.
God, every time I start listening to this, even after a long day, that's something good about voice actors is why I love them so much. Is like when I hear them, I feel just instantly relieved.
She starts cackling.
And happy. I just feel like genuinely happy.
No joke. She puts on in her earbuds and then 5 seconds later, she's giggling to herself.
Because I'm just so happy listening to them because it's like my character's coming to life and it's really beautiful. So chapter 7 is back to the Reese's chapter with Azriel. First of all, Anthony. Wow. Second of all, damn, Sean, Azriel. I love both their voices. At first, I thought Azriel's voice back when we first listened to it, I wasn't, immediately like I was Cassian. I was like, oh, that's it. But
Right.
I grew to love Sean's voice as Azriel, and now it can never change for me.
Right.
And so the graphic audio moments that I thought were cool through this moment was as soon as like Az is talking to Rhys about Tamlin and bringing up his potential, there's this cool effect of hearing Rhys's power rumble. And I feel like because this book is so short, they were able to do more effects that way.
Probably.
And there was this really big like storm rumble sound. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then when Az is talking about the Illyrians, and like the very big switch of him being the Illyrians are pieces of shit, like going all of a sudden from this very like stoic sound to being very passionate.
And after probably a beat of silence.
Oh yeah. And then every time Azriel talks about Elaine, it's crazy because he just sounds so soft when he talks about her. He's like, well, he's Elaine's mate, and it would be an invasion of her privacy. It's like, it's cute because it's Sean's voice as Azriel, but then I'm also like, oh, he's talking about Elaine, and I like eye roll.
Yeah.
So then I think talking about Lucian was funny because because when he talks about Lucian to Azriel, remember back in when he's saying it to him is like, you mean you didn't lie to me when you said you didn't know where he was? Like
you weren't joking?
But Sean Az is having none of it. He's like, no. And I love hearing the taunt in Anthony's voice because he's very comedic. Like Az does not have it. He's like, no. And I thought the very cute, because it was very resemblant of Cassian's, like very similar to how he stumbled when asking about, are they going to get the sister's kiss? When Azriel asked, because it was different because he's like, are we like it was different, but it was cute because it's sort of similar.
Similar to how Cassian said her of like, is Nesta?
Yeah, because he was asking if like Nesta was going versus,
especially with these bad boys being whipped for these sisters.
Okay, Cassian whipped for Nesta makes total sense to me.
Rhys whipped for Feyre.
Azriel whipped for Elaine makes zero sense. And I'm sorry for all those Elaine heads out there. I'm really sorry. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Tell me a moment when she's been good.
Find all of the facts and give them to us.
Yeah, please. So then, going into chapter 8 during Cassian's POV, again, I love Colleen Delaney's voice. Again, I'm just going to remind you that she's the narrator for this. I really love, she has a very calming voice. It's different than Melody's where it's a very sweet melodic tune, I would say.
Right.
But it's different because it's very narrator like bass. I could picture her, if anybody's watched Marvel What If, I imagine her as like the Watcher.
Yeah, I can see that.
A little bit when she's doing like the POV.
I see that.
And first of all, hearing Cassian's voice every single time makes me so happy. I'm just, John, hello, welcome back. Because he comes in and he's just, I want to buy some clothes. And I don't think you need clothes.
I thought, I
think you need clothes.
I'm just like, well, you could have mine.
I mean, sure, hey, babe.
Sure, you want some clothes? You can have mine.
I don't think Emery's into that.
No, definitely.
But Emery was interesting but I will say, Emery was unlike how I originally thought her voice would be, because I thought it was too sweet. I thought at first it was like too womanly, because I imagined a Nesta voice. Because she was described so much like Nesta, I was imagining. But honestly, if I think more about it I learned to grow to love Emery's voice. Because I think it's actually, honestly, more her character than not. Because it would be deceiving to have a very sweet, womanly voice talking to you, but she's hard as granite. Like, she looks like she does. And
I want to hear her voice.
I think it's good. I think her voice is great. I don't know her, I'm sorry, don't know her voice actor's name.
Yeah.
But I will say that I thought, at first I was hesitant about her voice, but then I liked it. I grew to like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there weren't really many moments in that chapter where I was like, oh my god, these sounds are amazing. Just normal graphic stuff.
Right.
Then in chapter 9, we get back to Feyre's POV. Love Melody. Again, so sweet sounding. So different than Colleen, but in a very Feyre sense.
Yeah.
And every time you hear Anthony's POV, especially in this book, for any graphic audio listeners, hearing Rhys's dark tone when he's doing his narration, and then as soon as he talks to Feyre, it's so much softer, and there's such a big flip from this really hard, rugged sound to, hello, babe. Hello, Feyre, darling. And it's like, oh It's so cute. It's so cute. I love also hearing the shadows come in first and then hearing it when they're talking in each other's brains. It did that a little bit better to where you could kind of hear and then it's kind of like a whispery, shadowy tone, and then you hear him talk as Feyre's going to the studio. And again, I also just love the magic and the winnowing sounds of
ding ding ding.
Yeah, because the magic is very much like you hear the fire and the fey lights and the when she winnows away, it's like it feels like you're teleporting and it's really neat. And I like and then chapter 10 was only literally 2 pages, but I think what I liked about it was I loved hearing this very epic music in the background when she's talking about painting, and then all of a sudden you hear like this stomach rumbling noise, and it's like she doesn't say it, but you knew it's there. And it was funny. And then I love how when she's monologue, before she says the bell's tolled, but it rings before she says it. So it's like she's still painting and you still hear it, and then there's a level of, now she notices the bell has tolled. Right. And so I think that was cool.
That's cool.
I also love big bells. It gave me a big Liberty Bell sound. And I really like that. Or like the town square bell.
From a clock tower.
Oh yes, for sure. And then with chapter 11, I loved, again, hearing Rhys's POV, but especially going from Feyre's noise of painting, going to this emptiness as Rhys is walking into the springboard. Especially from previous books, since we've listened to all the graphic audios. There's always been you said earlier, you said there's always a twiddle of birds, there's always this sort of like springy noise, or
breeze in the trees.
Dead silent. And it's so, you can feel it. It's
when
so
even the trees don't rustle.
And it's so tensiony. And you did hear me this earlier, but wow, as soon as Tamlin opened the door and I heard it, and I heard Henry speak his first word as Tamlin, I felt my heart sink.
Yeah.
He did such a good job making Tamlin sound so defeated and ruined.
And I think it's also because we know Henry.
Henry.
We know him personally and how joyful he is most of the time.
Oh my god, hearing him like that was so sad. God damn you, Henry, for actually making us care about Tamlin. This is not fair.
But also props to you for making us care about Tamlin.
So but I felt it in my bones hearing it, and I was like, oh god. Like, even, you could tell, even Anthony, there was a level of, even though he wasn't in like booth with him or heard him, he probably did hear the dialogue. He was kind of like,
I don't like that.
But then, in a weird way, the graphic audio made me think similarly to the Feyre moment during the first part of Akamath, where Rhys tried to taunt Feyre into showing emotion. It seemed like he was doing the same thing with Tamlin.
Just unintentionally this time.
And he got to a certain point where like he was goading Tamlin into making him come back to life again, making him fight. Like, because you heard the life come back into him and when he growled, and when he started goading about Lucian as his friend and whatever. It's like, I don't have the sentries to do all that and whatever. You won your mate, whatever he said. And then the tension music when Rhys gets mad is so crazy, because it's the first time we're ever seeing Rhys get so mad at Tamlin in a very real moment. Right. And he's just like, he doesn't yell, because Anthony Rhys does not yell, but he's just like, this is the venom. I could feel it. It's like, you almost ruined her. She survived you though. She survived you. And it was lovely. I loved hearing it. And god damn it, even in the first ACOTAR book, I loved hearing the claws retract and detract, or whatever the fuck.
It's nice for that comeback.
I loved how, because you heard it and it was kind of like, it almost sounded like Wolverine whenever it was kind of like, not even just a metal sound, but it's almost like you could hear it coming out of the skin. And it's like, ooh. Yeah. And so I loved hearing that, because you could tell when he got mad and then when he gave up before he even said his words. And then hearing Henry's defeat of, he didn't even get mad at the get out. It was get out.
So dramatic.
Didn't even give a good Nesta. Get out. Like, he said, just get out. And just the whole ending Feyre scene, like, there necessarily wasn't anything in there that was technically graphic audio worthy to bring up, but I love how his just shift in tone. It was so immediate. And it was just like, oh, my Feyre. I was like, Anthony, how do you do this?
Right, because he was literally just angry at Tamlin.
He was just angry. How does he do this? This is so amazing. And so then, chapter 12, I love hearing them all together again. This is what the graphic audio is made for. When all these characters are in a room together. And I loved I loved hearing Cassian's voice with Feyre particularly. John and Melody, I don't know what it is about their their characters. I don't know if it's Cassian and Feyre that also makes it that way, but like they just meld so well.
Yeah.
And it just is so perfect for me. And it just makes me smile the whole time. And then as soon as they start decorating and they start drinking, the holiday music comes in and like everyone's laughing in the back and it's wholesome. You hear Az sweeping and he's just rumbling to himself and
rumbling while doing housework.
And then he's like, he takes the bottle, swigs it, and you hear it, and then you hear Rhys-Ann that's like, damn it, Anthony. I love how he's like, you can hear his smile when he's talking as Rhys-Ann, especially as when he said, oh, all these years, I know it's Cassian stealing my good wine, or something like that. And then she sticks her tongue out at him, and he's like, immediately switches. It's like, save that tongue for later. I'll know what to do.
I have some ideas.
And I'm like, why am I shivering right now? Fucking stop. This isn't okay. You are not allowed to do this, but also keep doing it.
Stop, but like, don't stop.
Yeah. So, of course I love Am. Immediately when she comes in, she's just, Rhys-Ann, or like, don't think that, Rhys-Ann. And I love her voice. And immediately I loved that line. I loved the line of her just being just, not with Nesta Archeron coming in 2 days. Like, you could totally tell
she's totally teasing.
That tease at him. And it's like, that one wasn't fun. Or at least only you found it funny.
Or that one didn't land how you probably wanted it to.
It was funny to me.
Actually, maybe it did land exactly how she wanted it to, but no one else was laughing.
But yeah, the tension when Nesta was brought up, the music stopped. Mm-hmm. It was dead silent. Amren's like the only one that, what? And of course, transitioning to Elaine getting snappy I feel so bad for that voice actor. I feel so bad.
Karina.
I feel so bad for Karina. Because I feel she gets such a bad rap because of the character she's playing.
Yeah. Hate Elaine, but Karina does it great.
She did a great job. She was like talking at first, she was good, and then she's as your sister or your seer. Bitch, where the fuck is this coming from? And this is such a subtle note, but I loved hearing when they were like cutting the lows because there was a really big beat of silence between them talking when Feyre was not monologuing. Mm-hmm. And you just hear the knives cutting through bread. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but when I've baked bread before, there is this nice like crisp sound when you're cutting it.
If you cut it properly, yes.
And it was good. It was good. And I just liked hearing that. The difference, I swear to God, Sean, for as soft with Elaine as very like, I'll take that for you. And then wait, with so much command in his voice. It was nuts. I was, oh my God. I'm such a Cassian girl, but also, that was hard. Cassian, hot as hell. I was like, okay, where's this going? And then that tension moment got interrupted with the bathroom thing, which the music was funny. The music was taunting. Everybody was laughing.
The bursting out laughing.
Everybody laughing. Rhys trying not to laugh. And then Amren being like, I'm serious, guys. It's hard. Like,
I know how to sit on a toilet.
It was so funny because she was the only one not laughing. And then God, the
little angry snowballs.
No, it's true. That's how it felt. And I hated the transition because it made me feel like so much of a breakup because then you hear them laughing and then all of a sudden Elaine speaks over the laughter and she's like, so you could have changed back or you could have changed into anything. And then they the laughter doesn't die immediately, but it kind of,
which is a natural way.
It did. It naturally transitioned. And then it was like, loved Amren's line about being human because I love the way Nora talks when she says Amren's line. She's like, there's no going back to being human, girl. Like you can feel the motherly energy of just that ain't gonna happen.
And probably slight disappointment of like, you're still on about that.
True. And then of course this transitions to Feyre when she goes to Nesta's door, right? And there was so much tense music I've never heard in one of these ACOTAR graphs before, where there was like kind of, I don't want to say Jaws level, dun level, but it was this very unease.
I think I can picture what you're talking about.
Getting to her door. And then transitioning to the very lovely music of the tavern. The tavern music was actually very lovely.
I will say tavern music, especially fantasy or medieval tavern music, is like one of my go-to types of study music.
It gave me D&D vibes for sure.
I don't even play D&D, and it's like that's tavern music is something I just enjoy listening to.
Fantasy night music. There was like a flute. There was even like I think there was like a bass at some point, like a stand-up bass at some point.
Fiddle.
Yeah, it was pretty good, and I loved it. And then of course, chapter 13, where actually she talks to Nesta. The music in the tavern dies down as Feyre is looking at Nesta because it's very sad music. music. Because as soon as she looks at her and she's describing how she looks, there's a level of not the typical the ACOTAR music that we know that, you know, anytime somebody realizes something. Remember that music that always pops up when somebody's realized it? It's not this. It's very much just this sad womp womp music.
Womp womp.
When that's all I can describe it as. Like, and yes, of course, very much tavern music. Then the tavern music comes back on when she's done monologuing. And I loved hearing Natalie's voice again. It's been 13 chapters and I haven't heard her at all. And the first thing she says is just like, you know, I haven't decided yet. And she kind of sounded, how do I say this? She sounded as if she didn't talk a lot. Like she sounded like her voice was dry.
Very raspy and harsh.
But not like, I don't think in an actor sense where like she didn't drink. Like I think it was meant to sound like that. She sounded like she hadn't spoken in a while, which probably could have been the case. Maybe she doesn't speak when picking up guys.
Scratchy misuse.
Maybe she doesn't
not misuse.
Maybe she doesn't pick them up. She just like drags them. Like she doesn't actually talk to them.
She's just like,
come on.
Yeah, they don't do much talking back at her apartment.
How are they? Can I just say for one though about Nesta? How are they not scared as shit being with her? Because if they feel the power that she has, like, how are they scared or not scared to have sex with her? But even then, maybe they're scared to say no.
That's probably what it is. And also knowing that she is the High Lady's sister. Like, oh, well, we can't say no to her.
Honestly, I feel like Cassian has more of a reputation than being the sister. Because I feel like there's something in the air about them. Like, everybody knows that they have tension.
Maybe.
But then the music and Nesta's voice when Feyre brings up the dad is so crazy. Because immediately Nesta's voice, I think it's the most aggressive we've ever heard her. She's like the most Fae, I think, I've ever heard her.
A little hint of growl.
Yeah, there's a level like, don't ever bring him up again. It's like, oh jeez. Like,
don't you dare finish that.
Yeah, I know that's not what exactly was said. I know you said exactly what it was.
No, I'm just trying to imagine.
I'm saying I'm paraphrasing most of that stuff.
Yeah.
And of course with chapter 14, like there necessarily wasn't like a lot of moments because it was just kind of a nice walking. But, you know, I love the music when Rhys and Mar are walking. It's very much like a nice getting back to normal thing. And I love when Rhys talks about the gifts because there's a level of comedy that he has with it because he's very confident with Mor. He's like, I bought her this and that. And then she's just like, so you haven't bought her any? And he's like, yeah, no. Like,
there goes that brief bravado.
Yeah, very just like, yeah, what do I get her? She's like, seriously?
Isn't that supposed to be something you talk about?
Right.
I mean, and it's so different from, I meant to bring this up earlier. It's so different how Feyre was with Mor, of like, she knew better than to ask Mor for advice on what to get him.
They both had the same thing of like, where they were both, should I ask? And then Rhys did the dumb thing of asking. And then of course, the music when Mor talks about leaving is pretty epic because it sounds like very much travel music. Like whenever you hear like on a boat, somebody about to go on an adventure.
Right.
It sounds like that level of piratey music where it's, okay, so she's doing this. You can kind of tell. And I just loved it. Again, I love the graphic audio so much. All these actors are so talented. I'll say that over and over again.
Incredible.
But yes, they're amazing. So
I'll keep doing research to find the actors that we...
Yeah, because only for the graphic audio, there's only some of them listed, named-wise, the big people. But I love everybody in them. Yeah. Even the side characters. So I appreciate that. So yeah, that's the end of our deep dive episode. So thank you so much for watching. Listening. We really appreciate it. Yeah. So yes, please follow the TikTok, the Patreon for free, the Discord. We're going to try getting on that better. Facebook, the Instagram, please. And please rate and review this podcast. It really would help us, and share with anybody who likes ACOTAR if you want them to get into it, because we have 3 seasons worth to give them. And then up until this, and then we'll be in Silver Flame not too shortly. And then foreshadowing, we'll be on to Throne of Glass. Crazy.
Insane that we're already almost there.
Crazy. But yes, so I am excited to deep dive. Like, let's stay in the moment though. We're in Frost and Starlight. I love this book. But again, please share this with anybody you know, and people who have never read a fantasy book. I think this is a good first fantasy book for people who don't know it too well.
Fantasy.
Yeah. So get them into our podcast, please. And then is there anything you wanted to say to the people before we left?
I mean, I would have said rate it again.
Rate it again.
Or maybe like now that we've gotten this far, go back and listen to some things. And maybe think about our theories that we talked about in other episodes.
Pick up on things that we said that we forgot about.
100%.
I mean, we have all these notes, but there's also a level of like, we've said so much. So there's a level of, what did I say?
Or we'll say something and it's like, I don't remember if I've said this before. And then it's like, oh, I've said this before.
So yeah, please come to us with your theories, because now we're getting to a point in the end of ACOTAR where like, we are not going to know a lot of the things. I mean, none of us do. So we're all goal thinking.
And you can comment on all of this stuff on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Patreon. Like, there are so many places that you can reach out to us.
Yeah, so please do those things, and we will
Discord.
see you all in the next episode. We will hopefully be having our interview next week, so we hope to see you guys there. So I hope you have a good evening, day, whenever you're watching this.
Yes.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.